Chapter 1160. This world had just been baptized by the energy storm, and the energy that had yet to disperse was flowing through every inch of space. Even the slightest collision and compression of energy could make this place reverberate. Under the red and blue sky, the scorched earth was reflected. The hideous scars that covered the entire land told others about the tragic battle that had happened here. In the distance, the gentle, aurora-like barrier was swaying beautifully. Yun Nuashing stopped on the scorched earth and watched the countless demon army flee in defeat. He did not kill them all, as they were just ordinary cannon fodder and would not affect him much. That action would not consume too much of his energy, and he did not do it because he was not interested. As for those demon god-level demons, he seemed to have accidentally let one escape, but it was not a big deal. The chaos element was already lurking in his soul, constantly corroding and devouring his soul. Sooner or later, it would collapse. Some of the demons who were fleeing in the distance even dared to turn around and take a look at the demon who was facing the blood-red light of the setting sun. His red and black eyes were imprinted with extreme madness and brutality, which made them, as demons, shudder. No matter how unwilling they were, it was useless. They were already thankful that the Demon King didn't chase after them. If they had waited any longer, they might not have been able to escape. Crack! Yin Nuashing waved his hand to throw away the crushed earth in front of him and reached out to pull out a person from the pile of earth. It was a demon god that had already fainted. He could not maintain consciousness under the corrosion of the element of chaos, but he did not die immediately. The other demon gods either died immediately or were captured and devoured by him. Some of them knew that they would not be able to survive after seeing his actions, so they tried their best to self-destruct. Even if their actions were delayed by 0.1 seconds, he could forcefully stop them. Unfortunately, they were risking their lives to seek death. So how could he stop them? Buzz. The element of chaos and the origin of the divine body of Yun Nuashing swarmed forward and enveloped the fainted demon god. The huge amount of energy disintegrated him into the purest energy in a few seconds and was recovered into the body. The vast energy wandered freely in the body, but there was a strange energy that restricted it, causing it to be reduced by 1/10 in the blink of an eye. Furthermore, this body did not absorb much of it at all. It was just a sacrifice to break through the shackles, so Yin Nuashing did not feel any heartache. I need some more. He sighed and turned his gaze to the messy battlefield. After searching for a while, his gaze fixed on the two colossal giants. He lifted his foot and walked over. Now was not the time to be picky. There was no other way. He would just have to make do with it. Woo! Roar! The two gigantic demonic dwellers could feel the terrifying danger. Their huge bodies struggled to move, but they couldn't move at all. Their huge bodies were almost destroyed, and they were also restrained by the elements of chaos. They couldn't move at all. Yin Nuashing walked up to the two giants and looked at them trembling as if they wanted to move. She sighed and patted their bodies that were larger than a mountain range. She had a strange expression on her face as she said, "These are hybrid creations. They've fused thousands of strange things together. Just these two fellows alone can flatten a large area." Interesting, the demon race actually prepared these things. Since they have these, they should have something even more powerful, right? The energy contained is enough for me to break through the shackles, become a part of my body. Yin Nuashing patted the giants with her palm. The violent elements of chaos swept out like an ocean and covered the two giants in an instant. Following a squirming, the huge sea of chaos trembled. In a few breaths' time, the two colossal bodies completely disintegrated and melted. Then, they returned to her body. Why do you eat all kind of strange things? Aren't you afraid of getting a stomachache? A teasing voice came from behind, causing Yun Nuashing to open his eyes. A bright light flashed through his eyes, and his aura surged. The person behind him stopped appropriately after sensing this movement. She stood not far behind him and said with a surprised voice, "You've advanced again? Divine Underworld Realm. TSK, TSK. Someone who has an entire world of light as a backup energy storage is simply cheating. It's considered slow. Don't you know how many random things I've eaten these days? Yin Washing said with a strange expression. It's nothing. It's just a dozen or so gods. On average, it takes 2 gods to break the seal. How extravagant. Kaixia grinned. They have cultivated for hundreds of millions of years, several eras, and you just ate them like snacks. The energy conversion is not proportional. That energy is useless. It's just after the origin. Origin? Kaixia realized that she had misunderstood something. You didn't devour their energy when you absorbed the gods, but their origin? God's origin? And the gods' souls? Well, their energy is useless, but I still collected it. Let's talk about it later. Aren't you afraid of getting a stomachache? Yin Nuashing smiled and shook his head. I'm not worried about such things. The energy of the elements of chaos is enough to wash away the energy that doesn't belong to me. There won't be any imprint or aura left. It will only become the purest energy. A mass of pure energy that contains a blank god's soul and the god's origin, but it's contaminated with the aura of the elements of chaos. Kaixia shrugged helplessly. Anyway, what happened to him was not normal enough. It was useless to investigate further. She tilted her head and looked at the sun hanging high in the distant horizon. The setting sun was as red as blood, dyeing the world red. The aurora barrier did not filter out the color of the sunlight, which made the abandoned battlefield look abnormally horrifying. There were traces of destruction by powerful energy everywhere, and the severely damaged land could no longer be seen. The 7 demonic armies left behind a large number of corpses, abandoned weapons, and abandoned armors, which looked particularly bleak under the setting sun. The devil army that was still running away in the distance was still crying. Even if the enemy had given up attacking, they had lost control because their leaders were all killed. There was no order and no organization. They were just running away randomly. Their hearts were on the verge of collapse. Kaixia looked at them running slowly and wanted to kick them back. Yin Nuashing looked at the blood-red sky and narrowed his eyes. That was the demon world. He looked over there and seemed to see something. It seemed that something was looking at him from there. There was a faint deterrent force. It was faint to him, but it was there from the beginning. It seemed that someone had been peeping here. He knew what it was, but he didn't know who it was. Kaixia walked to him and looked at his narrowed eyes. She also looked at the blood-red sky with some curiosity. Do you want to go to the demon world? I want to see it, but not now. Yin Nuashing nodded and turned to walk back. Let's go. Someone is looking here. Kaixia was stunned and suddenly felt a chill. Don't make it sound so scary. Who is it? I don't know. Maybe it's the heavenly demon god. They can't see through here. The wall of reality and the wall of laws are still quite thick. If they don't come here personally, they won't be able to see the situation here. Unlike me, who can use the observer's eye to see through the wall of laws and can barely see the situation over there. TSK, you are cheating. You are really cheating. Isn't the difference too big when you're all Empyrean gods? Kaixia grinned and followed. The difference between Empyrean gods is just a small step. Not to mention that I am an observer. I should have some privileges, right? Yin Nuashing smiled silently. Do you want to step back and rest now? No, it's time to go. Yin Nuashing shook his head and looked at the sky. The demon army has lost almost 7 of their troops. They won't be able to organize another attack in a short period of time. But the next time they come out, the one leading them will probably be the heavenly demon god. If I'm not wrong, they might come again tomorrow or tonight. Kaixia exclaimed. Tonight or tomorrow is not when the rain of stars comes. Yin Nuashing nodded. I am considering whether to directly smash a sun on their heads. Kaixia, you are so bad. I don't need to control it. It seems that some of them will fall here. I just counted, there are about 4 or 5 stars. If we are lucky, those stars may even hit the demon world and explode. It's quite fun. Kaixia took a deep breath. Yin Nuashing walked for a distance. When he turned back, he found that Kaixia was frozen in place and silent. He raised his arm and waved. Why are you in a daze, girl? Let's go and find a place to rest. This battle is tiring. Tiring? Kai Xia came back to her senses and trotted to him. She tilted her head and looked at him. You can get tired too? I can get tired too. This time, I'm really a little tired. Yin Nuoxing nodded helplessly. Kai Xia frowned and looked at him from head to toe. She felt that something was not right. He did not show the kind of fatigue that came from using too much energy. It was more like he had used up some of his spiritual power. Where did your spiritual power go? Yin Nuoxing was a little dazed. He suddenly came back to his senses and looked at her strangely. Are you girls really so sensitive? You can even feel when I use my spiritual power? It's nothing. I have been gathering my spiritual power. He thought for a while and said, Well, you will know when the time comes. Kai Xia glanced at him. Although she did not know what he was doing, she knew that it was not something good. Just as she was about to leave with him, Yin Nuoxing suddenly stopped and frowned. Well, I can't rest yet. There is still something I need to do. What is it? I don't know. The barrier's consciousness suddenly called me. I need to go back to the Nine Gods Temple. In the northern wasteland of the godly land, Ziyi and the others had spent a great deal of effort to cross the mountains and pass through the mountains. Even Yi, she was exhausted when they finally returned to the northern wasteland. When they sensed the aura of the northern wasteland again, Qinyan suddenly asked, Why don't we open the portal again? Zai, Ziyan, and the others were speechless. Ziyan thought about this question seriously and then shrugged. How would I know why I didn't think of this question? Zai slapped his forehead. This girl's usual cleverness was gone. It seemed that she only became unusually smart when it was related to Yin Nuoxing. Yuanqi shook his head and did not know whether to laugh or cry. Let's not think about this first. Let's hurry up and find little purple soul. That girl has slipped out for half an hour. Little Qing shrank her head. Mei Mao looked at Feng apologetically. Feng knew what she was thinking and waved her hand. Little purple soul is very powerful. She comes and goes like a shadow. Even Xingxing could not catch her. It's normal that you can't see her. Now I'm just curious about what this little girl is doing. Nightmare hiccuped. Last time she slipped out and brought back a high-level god. This time, at the mention of this, everyone could not help but fall silent. They were used to the little girl disappearing from time to time and bringing back something. God knew what this little girl was thinking. God knew what she was thinking. Sister Zian, I'm back. I caught something. The little girl's childish voice was urging them again. She seemed to have brought back something. Huh? The sudden voice interrupted everyone's wild thoughts. They hurriedly raised their heads and saw the little girl looking up at them with a smile. She was even holding a golden ball of light in her hands. The ball of light was swaying restlessly in her hands, as if it wanted to break free. However, no matter how hard it tried, it couldn't break free from the seemingly weak little hand. Everyone was silent for a while before sighing in unison. Sure enough, he ran out and picked up some strange things. Suddenly, Sheila's silver-white eyes lit up. That's it. Zai, who had just knocked on the little girl's head, was stunned. What's that? Sheila pointed at the head-sized golden light ball in little purple soul's arms. We fell out of the space because of it. The mysterious space fluctuation is very similar to the energy inside it. Yishi frowned. She walked up to the light ball and rolled it up with her wide sleeve. She looked around and asked, What is this? Little purple soul shook her head. I don't know. I just saw it running after us. Sister Yishi couldn't get rid of it even when she used the teleportation circle. And then you went to catch it. Yuanqi was speechless. At the same time, he was also curious. What was this strange light ball trying to do by following them all the way? Ziyan took the ball of light from Yishi. Just as she was about to examine it, the ball of light suddenly quieted down. Taking advantage of Ziyan's unguarded state, it suddenly flashed and slammed into the pendant on her chest as fast as lightning. This sudden change caused everyone to be greatly alarmed. This change was far too sudden, and it was so fast that Ziyi and the others were unable to react in time. When their gazes flickered, the ball of golden light had already shot into the pendant. Only now did they notice it, and their expressions changed slightly. Ziyan quickly took out the pendant from her collar. It went inside, and it's inside. Huh? What's wrong? Sai quickly asked. Xian closed her eyes and directed her soul energy to wander around the pendant, following the trail of the light ball. In that vast sea of junk, well, she knew that was not the right word to call it junk, but Little Star just threw things into it casually. The things that had been tidied up had obviously been there for a long time. The newer things were messy. After chasing after that light for a while, Xian's soul power stopped spreading, and she finally found something that made her feel somewhat astonished. She opened her eyes and waved her hand. She took the thing out of the pendant. Everyone hurried to take a look. They were all stunned. An egg. Why is there an egg in Little Star's pendant? Zai was confused. Ah, it's that egg. Lon Xen recognized this thing. Previously, when you were still in seclusion, Brother Nuo Xing, Little White, and I were walking on the land of the ultimate plain region. We picked up this egg, and it was baptized by the energy of the deity's death. Yes, it's that egg. Little White nodded and stretched out its hand to press on the round egg. Also, the life energy of this egg has become stronger. When I first saw it, it was probably because it had just gone through the baptism of the god's fall and was very weak. It could not even gather any life energy. That idiot threw it into the spirit beast pool to nourish it. But how did it suddenly become so strong? Xian smiled bitterly. That ball of light went in. Little White was stunned. Her expression became strange. Went in. It can't be that the egg is actually that ball of light, right? Is there such a coincidence in this world? So I thought for a while. It's hard to say. Maybe it really is. As she spoke, she waved her hand. Aya, let's not worry about that for now. Xian, open the portal. If that ball of light is gone, no one will stop us. If there's anything, let's go back to the 9 shrine first. Oh, I feel that something is wrong. The whole sky is giving off a terrifying pressure. Xian nodded and took out the token without any hesitation. A 9-colored light flashed and took them away from where they were. Perhaps because they were too close to the 9 shrine, they only saw a light flash in front of them. The scene changed, and they were back in the 9 shrine. It was not like the small divine land where a portal was opened. This time, the speed was frighteningly fast. When they appeared in the sky above the 9 shrine, they saw an extremely huge space. It was much bigger than the space of the 9 shrine that they knew. This ancient and hidden space had expanded countless times. Other than the 9 floating islands of the 9 shrine and the floating islands of the Yuan and Qin families, there were 2 other huge floating islands. These islands were very close to each other and were almost connected. Wow, I have 2 more neighbors after going out for a while. Yuanshi placed her hand on her forehead and looked at the 2 new floating islands. She clicked her tongue and sighed. That's the Xin clan and Yu clan, right? They were also chased in by those heavenly deities? Chased in? That's too bad. A voice sounded behind them. Xian and the others turned around and saw Home Master Shui with a smile. You're finally back. Where's Little Star? Didn't he follow you? Violet Knight laughed bitterly. That fellow ran off to work on his own and abandoned us. Hearing this, Home Master Shui's expression changed slightly. She pondered for a moment. It seems that a lot has happened on your side. The 9 shrine and the guardian forces have become very busy. She waved her hand. Look at how tired you are. Go and rest. We need to understand some things. Xian and the others nodded. They had rushed back from the small divine land thousands of miles away. This time they were really tired. They also knew that some things had happened in the realm of the gods. They urgently needed to understand, but they were not in a hurry. Chapter 1161. In the hall of the Water God Shrine, Violet Knight, Xian and the others sat in a row, while Yuan Shi and Nightmare sat on the other side with serious faces. Little Purple Soul ran around the hall with Shi Yi and Shi Yun. The hall of the shrine was huge, and it was even bigger for the 3 little girls. The 3 of them ran around the hall with all their might, and Little Moon and Yu ran behind them, keeping an eye on them to make sure they didn't bump into anything. Although they were worried that the 3 little girls would bump into something and tear down the hall in anger. The shrine mistress took a sip of tea elegantly and listened to Xian and the others talk about what happened during this time. She smiled faintly. Little Star? Jining and Yao Hua were sent to the Red Star Academy by Little Star. Even we can't get in through the back door. Violet Knight almost spat out the tea in his mouth. So the Nine-God Shrine really liked the back door. No, that's not what I should be concerned about. I know what you're worried about. The shrine mistress looked at Ming, who was a little dazed and tired. She shook her head helplessly. Actually, it's good that Little Star left you all behind. I'm not talking about the future. There's no right or wrong that you all like to travel with Little Star. There's no such thing as the best or the worst. It's fine if you all like it, but we don't recommend that you all continue to follow Little Star. You all don't understand how destructive the elemental of chaos is. Even if you've faced it head-on, even if you've seen it yourself, including you, Violet Knight, you don't understand. Of course, we only know a little more than you do, but Little Star knows it best. That's why he has to leave you all. It's best for both of you. The corner of Chu Yingzhan's eyes twitched. Are the elements of chaos that powerful? Temple Master Shui shook her head and said softly, "It's not powerful. It's dangerous. It's extremely dangerous. It's beyond the category of element. It's true that it's a mutation of the dark element, but it's an out-and-out mutation. It's more like a serious mistake that was born in the world itself. It's a destructive rule that comes with the world itself. It can easily twist the space, time, and rules into something that nobody can recognize. A tiny bit of energy can destroy them and turn the space back into nothingness. It can even completely destroy a person from the root. Even the eternal cycle of reincarnation can't save him." The hall became quiet for a moment. They didn't expect it to be this dangerous, to the point where it could destroy a person, to the point where they could no longer enter reincarnation, their soul shattered into 8 realms. But won't Little Star be in danger? He can control the elements of chaos. Wouldn't that be? Xian was so nervous that her face turned pale. As the owner of the elements, he's the first one to be affected. The elements of chaos have already changed him. Temple Master Shui sighed. But there's nothing we can do. Little Star has made a choice. You, and I can't do anything to change it. The best thing he can do is to keep you away from him, as far away from him as possible. You may not know this, but the effects of the elements of chaos start from the energy waves. It's not physical contact. If you stay in the energy field formed by the elements of chaos for too long, you'll be affected too. I'm not a human anymore. I'll become like this. The world hates me and hates me. Everyone wants to stay away from me. You. Recalling what he said that day, everyone fell silent. Speaking of which, what did he think when they chased after him from so far away? Did he think it was troublesome? Or was he impatient? Going against his wishes, he shouldn't have a good impression of them. I don't think so. Little Purple Soul ran to the sofa with a smile and snuggled into Xian's arms. Big Brother is so happy to see you go to him. Huh? Fauna looked at the little girl in confusion. Are you sure? Yes. Big Brother is tired and in pain. He's been carrying everything on his shoulders. He thinks he's just very. Little Purple Soul was speechless. She didn't know what to say. The source of misfortune, the source of sin, Qin Yin suddenly said. Well, something like that. He had no choice but to stay away from everyone because he didn't want to affect everyone. When we showed up that day, I saw it very clearly. Big Brother was very happy at that moment, but he couldn't show it. His heart was very complicated. That's why he became like what you saw. Actually, Big Brother has long been used to the feeling of being with everyone. After talking so much, he had no choice but to separate from everyone. The little girl said with a smile. Everyone suddenly understood. So that guy was at Sundara? Thinking about it carefully, TSK, forget it. That guy was not at Sundara at all. He was probably sick. When he was sick, he could easily make the Guardian formation tremble. And now, he was terminally ill. Senior, can you find Little Star? There's a small situation here. We can't determine what to do. We want to find him as soon as possible. Xian said. She was still confused about the egg. She would feel uneasy if she didn't find Yanuashing. There is. But whether he wants to respond or not is not something I can control. Hall Master Shui nodded. She stood up and walked out of the hall. Follow me. Little Star left something here. We should be able to find him with it. Zai and the others quickly got up and followed her. So I thought for a while, is it the barrier consciousness? Yes. Little Star used it to inform us. At that time, the Guardian forces were gathered in the hall for a discussion. It appeared directly in the hall and scared the old man of the Xian family. He almost fainted. Everyone was speechless. How could a god be scared into fainting? The group came to the Golden Temple and walked to the central hall. Zai and the others noticed that there were a lot fewer people in the temple. In the past, the temple was always lively. Wherever they went, they could see talkative elders. If they had nothing to do, they could find an elder to talk to and pass the day. Chu Yingxian even became friends with a few elders of the Temple of Wind. When she was in the 9 temples, she would look for those elders to play chess and talk about cultivation. Unknowingly, a day had passed. Anyway, everyone's impression of the 9 divine halls was that it was very lively, especially inside the divine halls. It was not as strict as it seemed from the outside. Everyone inside could talk and laugh. It was the first time they had seen it so quiet today. There are a lot fewer people in the temple, Yuanshi said casually. Temple Master Shui nodded. Everyone has been sent out. Night is coming, and the first wave of the rain of stars will come soon. The 9 temples and the Guardian forces are helping to extradite the people of the Taiyuan domain and the Zenith domain. They have to settle all the lives in the Divine Prefecture, the Ganyuan domain, and the Kuan Yuan domain. They also have to set up a strong barrier. After all, there are stars falling on these 3 large regions. The number is relatively small. However, compared to the Taiyuan domain and the Zenith domain, which are about to be abandoned, the defensive power of these 3 regions is not small. Why do you all look like that? She felt that it was a little quiet. When she turned around, she saw Zai and the others in a daze. She immediately understood. She helplessly patted her forehead. Look at me. I was so busy listening to you that I didn't tell you what happened in the past few days. Yuanshi raised his hand with a trembling hand. What is the rain of stars? They were mentally prepared that the Taiyuan domain and the Zenith domain would be abandoned. The day of the big collision was inevitable, and these 2 large regions would almost certainly be destroyed. However, if they were to evacuate now, well, the 2 large regions were so large that it was understandable to evacuate now. Besides, there might not be enough time. However, it seemed that the reason he thought of was different from what Temple Master Shui had said. The rain of stars did not sound like something healthy. Where did it come out? Didn't Little Star tell you? Everyone shook their heads. Nightmare shrugged. We knew that the 2 large regions were going to be destroyed, but the boss left after that. It took us a while to run back. We lost contact with him in the middle. We don't know what happened. Oh, that's much easier to explain. Temple Master Shui understood. It's nothing. As long as you know about the world fragment, it's easier to explain. When the world fragment pushed from the edge of the world of the gods to its current position, it destroyed many stars and swallowed many star clusters. However, some of them were not destroyed directly. They were knocked out by the world fragment and flew to various parts of the star system. They were also accidentally infected with the aura of the void mist and became dangerous wandering stars. Now, many stars are attacking the gods, a lot of them. There will be 2 waves tonight. Everyone fell into a dead silence. This was really... All they could do was chuckle. The gods were really done for, with the world fragment and the rain of stars. Now, many of the guardians have been sent out. Every star has the energy of a saint or deity. When it passes through the final barrier of the pillar of creation, it will weaken a lot. The combined energy of dozens of emperor gods and the great city barrier is enough to destroy a portion of the stars. They also need to send out some people to check if there is any void mist left. So, as you can see now, everyone has been sent out. I am the only one left to guard the rear. Now, Source Peak territory is guarded by 7 heavenly gods. The Guardians are doing their best to protect the remaining part of Source Peak territory, the Divine Land, Qianyuan territory, and Kuan territory. Wait, aren't they going to give up? Why are they still guarding Source Peak territory? And 7 heavenly gods at that? Chu Yingxian felt that something was wrong. Temple Master Shui sighed faintly. Because there are many holdouts in Source Peak territory. They haven't seen the energy of the stars, so they don't know fear. They're not willing to leave, even after being warned by the guardians. Speaking of this gave her a headache. It was so painful that her head was dizzy. How could there be people like this? When Z and the others heard this, they didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Were these people tired of living or what? As they spoke, they arrived at the central hall. Temple Master Shui gently pushed open the door. Although it was called the Central Hall, it wasn't very big. It was just a small conference room that could seat several circles of people. There were many seats, and it was almost never full. Last time, when the Guardians gathered, they only filled the bottom row. There were less than 20 people. At the bottom of the hall, there was a person in armor. It didn't have any aura, and its body was like a phantom in water. It sensed that someone had entered, and the complex energy symbols flowing in its eyes faded slightly. It turned around and looked at Temple Master Shui and the others. These children are looking for Little Star. It's urgent. Can you inform him? Temple Master Shui said directly. The barrier's consciousness's eyes flashed. It nodded slightly, then took a step back. I have already informed him. He has responded. He is opening the portal. Huh? Everyone was stunned. Was it that simple to call them back? This was a bit unexpected. In fact, they felt that it was already good enough that the awkward guy was willing to use his image to say a few words. But now he was directly calling back. Wait a minute, they weren't mentally prepared. Buzz. There was a commotion in the space, as if something huge was squeezing the space and emerging from it. A black portal had appeared beside the consciousness of the barrier, and a figure was slowly emerging from it. An uncomfortable aura was also emanating from it. Accompanied by a surge of black clouds and mist, a slender figure emerged from within. Her long hair, which was a mixture of strange silver black and multicolored, fluttered behind her back. Her exquisite and astonishingly beautiful face was covered with frost and indifference, and her red and black eyes were extremely strange. Hey, we're back to play. A golden light emerged from the portal, and rosy clouds emerged from behind Yin Nuashing. She smiled and waved at everyone. Yin Nuashing was much more straightforward. He looked at everyone and nodded. Is there an emergency? Little Star, you came back directly. Yuanshi grinned. Are you done in the demon world? I saw that you were fighting quite fiercely just now. Fortunately, they didn't send any demonic gods. I killed 7 of the 36 demonic gods. They probably won't come back for a while. Yin Nuashing stretched and yawned. It's a good time to take a rest. I'm a bit tired. This idiot is still gathering spiritual power in the middle of a battle. I don't know what he's doing. It seems like he's been gathering spiritual power for more than 10 days. Rosy clouds made a face at him and smiled at everyone. It's only been a few days. Forget it. Yin Nuashing looked at her helplessly, then looked at Xian. Is there something you need from me? Yes. Xian was still not used to Yin Nuashing being like this. She took out the egg that had just mutated from her pendant. This egg. She explained the matter in detail. Yin Nuashing was also a little surprised after hearing it. He waved his hand and took the golden egg from a distance. After looking at it for a while, he frowned. The aura of life has recovered. That's right. That ball of light should be a part of it. It's located in the ultimate plane region. Maybe it was separated and used to seal something. And this aura, why does it seem a bit like he thought for a while and remained silent? Rosy clouds waved her hand in front of him. Like what? Yin Nuashing looked at her and said, it seems a bit like that thing that was suppressed at the bottom level of the Dark God Palace. Everyone was confused. Rosy clouds sucked in a breath of cold air. More than 10 peak demonic gods couldn't kill it. In the end, it was sealed and tortured to death by dozens of divine power weapons. It escaped from the Dark God Palace. Zai and the others' faces turned pale immediately. They finally understood what this thing was referring to. Yin Nuashing nodded hesitantly. The aura is very similar, but it's different in nature. It's probably because it was baptized by the demonic god's fall. It's now order attribute, and its aura is very different from before. What the hell is this thing? Whitey quickly asked. Yin Nuashing waved his hand and let the egg spin in front of him. He shook his head and said, I don't know. It's not something native to the celestial realm. It's from the outer realm. I only know that its shape is like a big snake with wings. Qin Yan's heart skipped a beat. Is it a soaring snake? No, no. There were soaring snakes in the celestial realm, but they have gone extinct. This is also a big snake with wings. It's half like a soaring snake and half like a lizard. Everyone thought about it for a long time. They dissected the two things in their minds and put them back together, but they still couldn't figure out what it was. They still had a confused look on their faces. Anyway, there was no other expression other than that. By the way, speaking of soaring snakes, Yin Nuoxing clapped his hands and looked at Qin Yin. I remember that your family's holy beast is a soaring snake, right? Qin Yin sighed. It used to be. Do you still remember what I was looking for in the forest of eternal night? Looking for the holy artifact left behind by the soaring snake? Qin Yin nodded. The last soaring snake was the one who made the Qin family. It suffered irreparable injuries and died in the depths of the Qin family in ancient times. According to it, there were many holy artifacts left behind by the soaring snake clan. We wanted to find them, but there were many miscalculations and we couldn't find them. Later on, Father gradually put this matter aside. Yin Nuoxing made a vague sound. She waved her hand and skipped the matter. How is the situation in the celestial realm now? Almost 80% of the people in the ultimate plane region have been evacuated. Something unexpected happened. Originally, we could only evacuate 90% of the people in the ultimate plane region tonight. Now that we have recalculated, we can evacuate all of them before the first wave of meteor shower arrives. The barrier's consciousness said calmly. A heavenly god made a move. People from the monster realm. Hall Master Shui looked at Yin Nuoxing and said softly, Little Stone told us that a monster god came from the monster realm and helped to bring the monster race back to the monster realm. Maybe that's why the evacuation sped up a lot. Kai Xia waved her hand. Would the monster realm be the first to cooperate with the celestial realm? No, they're still observing. After all, they haven't received any news about the meteor shower. Moreover, part of the meteor shower tonight will crash into the monster realm. I don't know what's going on exactly. I can only guess that the void mist probably tore through the monster realm's law barrier and crashed into the monster realm. After all, the monster realm isn't a companion realm, so it doesn't have the wall of law or the wall of reality as a fortress. If it wasn't for the hole in the wall between the demon realm and the celestial realm, the monster realm wouldn't have suffered. That's why they need to be beaten up before they know the pain. Only when they feel the pain will they know how to work together and negotiate. Kai Xiao nodded. After the third wave of meteor shower, there will be a period of calm. It's only half a month, and some things will probably happen in that half a month. The civil war in the celestial realm that you've all been waiting for is about to start, and it's even more intense because of the meteor shower. Yin Nuoxing pointed at the sky. Everyone laughed dryly and waved their hands. No, we're not looking forward to it, really. Besides, your smile is so evil. Yin Nuoxing smiled evilly. You're not looking forward to it? Maybe I remembered wrongly. Yuanqi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He was the one looking forward to it, wasn't he? He was looking forward to the celestial realm becoming more and more chaotic. Yin Nuoxing patted his face and returned to his frozen state. He looked at Home Master Shui and said, I know what you've been doing in the 3 zones. If you want to strengthen your defenses, make it stronger. The true test of the celestial realm will begin after the 3rd wave. I did say that after the 1st and 2nd waves of meteor shower, a considerable number of lives will perish, those who don't want to leave. But I didn't say that it's over. After the 3rd wave of meteor shower ends and half a month of calm, the meteor shower will begin again. When that time comes, Home Master Shui was very nervous. She was already thinking about how to solve this problem. You didn't say that before. The future has changed. The established future has changed. I think I caused it. Well, I won't apologize, Yin Nuoxing said calmly. Everyone's eyes widened. Yin Nuoxing sighed bitterly. Didn't I fire a shot at the world fragment a few days ago? Hall Master Shui looked confused. The others nodded. They were watching from the side at that time. although they didn't see it with their own eyes. Yin Nuashing sighed. It seems that the shot activated part of the void mist. The world fragment is rushing here faster. And how much faster? Nightmare jumped on the table and did a backflip. He looked at Yin Nuashing while trembling. The arrival day has been brought forward by half a month. We have less than 4.5 months to prepare. But that's not the point. The point is that the entire star system is now filled with malice. It's caused by the void mist. The stars are affected by that will. Most of the stars that were hit by the world fragment and were supposed to rush to the open space of the star system are now in an abnormal position and are bombarding the celestial realm. Everyone was speechless. If it wasn't for the barrier of order, I'm afraid it would be worse. Well, worse. Even if I didn't do that, things would still be bad. Now it's just worse. Yin Nuashing shrugged. Hall Master Shui looked sad. The first wave is 1,000,000 stars. The second wave is 12 times worse. How bad is it going to get? What happened to the gods protecting the celestial realm? Yin Nuashing let out a long sigh, looked at Hall Master Shui, and said, "Little girl, wake up. What bunch of bullsh asterisk T gods. Only destruction can save this world." Amitabha. Everyone sighed. The demon chanted the name of Buddha. This world is probably done for. Chapter 1162. What are you going to do with that egg? Chu Yingzhan pointed at the golden egg in Yin Nuashing's hand and changed the topic. She was worried that everyone would have a mental breakdown if she continued to talk about it. Yin Nuashing looked at the golden egg a few inches away from his hand and shook his head. "I don't know yet. I have to study it before I decide what to do with it. I'm curious how he escaped from the bottom of the Dark Temple and why he didn't leave the realm of the gods and went to the realm of ultimate plane. He even split his life aura into two, one buried underground as an egg, and the other sealed somewhere in the realm of ultimate plane. Speaking of which, I think I was the one who released the golden light." Huh? Everyone's eyes widened. How'd he get involved in this? "I just used the Book of Epics to go back in time." Yin Nuashing scratched his head and looked at Lon Exine. "When we were in the realm of ultimate plane, I broke a dimensional seal. Exine, you should remember." Lon Exine thought hard for a moment and remembered it. She clapped her hands excitedly. "So it's about that day. It's that day." Yin Nuashing nodded and tossed the golden egg up and down. "History has gone back in time to a new era. I'm crippled and it's useless." Rosie Dawn couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of water. This damned new technique. But it seemed to be possible to put it this way. Dozens of years ago, they had fought each other with all their might. Time had passed without a tree, and when the two people met again, they had become people that even they couldn't recognize. He had dragged his half-crippled body back, and she had become an egg. They had become people of the past. Waving his hand and putting away the golden egg, Yin Nuashing yawned for 6 seconds and rubbed his eyes. I'm a little sleepy. I'll find a place to rest. I'll wake up before tonight. I'm looking forward to the shower of stars." Everyone could not stop sweating. They felt that he was looking forward to something that no one else was looking forward to. "Little star, wait a minute." Before he could leave, Hall Master Shui quickly stopped him. "Your aura. Didn't Xian and the others say that you just reached the elementary deity level not long ago? How did you become a deity in the blink of an eye? Spirit receiving godly body? You devoured those people's origins?" At this moment, Yin Nuashing's aura was extremely chaotic. It was filled with the crazy and violent elements of chaos. No one could sense the exact situation. Anyway, no matter how hard they tried, they could only feel an extremely dangerous energy feedback. Therefore, they decided not to look at it. Hearing Hall Master Shui's words, they all looked at him in horror. "Didn't you see it that day?" Yin Nuashing tilted her head and smiled wickedly. "Not enough. It's still not enough. In order to deal with that day, I needed to prepare more, so I ate them. It was only at that moment that I decided to do it. Oh, they bumped into me. It's none of my business. A divine body that can accept spirits." Yin Nuashing shook her head and interrupted her. "The distortion of the primal chaos element is enough to distort it into a form of energy that doesn't leave any imprints. There's nothing to worry about. As for harming the harmony of heaven and earth, I'm already like this. Do I still need the rules of heaven and earth to acknowledge me? No, dozens of years ago, I had already grasped it in my hand. He clenched his right hand tightly, as if he wanted to crush something in his hand. Everyone watched him leave the hall. Their hearts were in a mess. Kaixia did not chase after him at this time. She let him find a place to rest. After all, he would be tired. No matter how cold-blooded and strong he became, he still needed a short rest. Can you tell me about his physical condition? Hall Master Shui asked the consciousness of the barrier. The consciousness of the barrier closed its eyes and opened them after a long while. There's no damage. His spiritual power has always been in a highly active state. Highly active? Nightmare couldn't help but move closer. The boss looks like he's about to die. He wobbles 3 times with every step. Is that what you call highly active? The main body is accumulating spiritual power and is in a highly active state. The spiritual power supplied to that body is maintained at a very low value. There's nothing unusual. Why is he accumulating so much spiritual power? Hall Master Shui frowned. As an experienced person, he wasn't surprised by this practice. High-level gods would choose to use the spiritual power that they didn't use much before. Sometimes, they would accumulate spiritual power for a long time for a battle or to deal with other things. Unknown. Yuanshi clapped his hands. Well, no matter what Little Star wants to do, there's no way to investigate now. Well, I'll go back to the Yuan family first. Well, anyway, I'm just next door. If you need anything, just shout in your soul, and I'll be there. Qinyan looked at Xian and nodded. I'll go back too. You keep an eye on the little angel, and don't let her go to Little Star. She sighed and looked at the stupid angel. She couldn't help but turn her eyes. Ming's eyes were rarely alive at this moment. He kept staring at the place where Yun Nuoxing disappeared. It was really difficult to stop her from going there. Oh wait, I forgot about something. Yun Nuoxing came back and startled Yuan Shi and Qinyan, who hadn't left yet. He snapped his fingers at the air, and a person appeared out of thin air. He fell to the ground and made an inexplicable sound. You go to work too. What are you doing in the chaotic domain? The healing is over. Yin Nuoxing stretched out her leg and kicked the guy. Kaixia looked at him and said, I was wondering why I seem to have forgotten someone. Why? Did he stay in your chaotic domain and refuse to come out? Who knows? He's been hiding and refusing to come out. If it weren't for the fact that he hasn't recovered yet, I would have thrown him out long ago. He didn't even think about where he was hiding. No matter how hard he tried to hide, he was still right under my nose. Yin Nuoxing sighed and spread out her hands. Then I'll leave him to you. Arrange a place for him. He's a god after all. He can be of some use. Don't worry about him being dishonest. Just like the previous few, I've tied him up with divine words. Nothing will happen. After saying that, he slipped away, leaving the people in the hall looking at each other, dumbfounded. The god who looked like a pancake felt that Yun Nuoxing was far away. Only then did he carefully raise his head and look at everyone. He's gone? Yuanshi nodded blankly. Yes, he's gone. Who are you? The middle-aged man got up from the ground and smiled bitterly. My name? Ahem, let's not talk about it. I'm just an unlucky guy. I've already understood the cause of this matter. Tell me, what do you want me to guard? Hall Master Shui pondered for a while and said, Actually, we don't have enough manpower in the Taiyuan domain. However, we don't plan to send too many people there. If you don't want to go, just wait for it to come crashing down. She laughed eerily, which sent chills down everyone's spines. Well, if that's the case, why don't you go and help set up the joint barrier? The Divine Land, the Ganyuan domain, and the Kuan Yuan domain will also face the test. Moreover, this is the rear of the extradition, so there can't be any mistakes. Go to the Divine Land, near the Taiyuan domain. Take the token of the 9 divine temples, and someone will take you there. Hall Master Shui handed over a token. The middle-aged man sighed and took the token. He nodded and said, Okay, then I'll go first. Sigh. I never thought that I would have a day like this. I've been living my life aimlessly, but I still have to fight for such a great thing. After watching the nagging god leave, Yuan Shi and Qin Yin also took their leave. For them, it was just a matter of returning home from their neighbor's house to deal with some matters. Well, it would only take them a few minutes to drop in. I'll go and take a look. Ming's figure flashed and disappeared into light spots. Everyone was speechless. This little angel was really impatient. This little angel. Xian shook her head helplessly. She looked at everyone and smiled awkwardly. I'll go and look after Ming. Everyone said, go, go, go. You'll go without her anyway. Xian stuck out her tongue and skipped out of the hall. Zai looked at Feng, Yishi, and a few other little girls who stayed behind. You're not going? Feng shook her head. Xingxing needs to rest. Xian and Ming can go alone. Too many people will disturb him. Xixia was silent for a while. Her silver eyes surged with spiritual light. She stood on her tiptoes and tugged at Zai's robe. She said in a childish voice, Big Brother is doing something very dangerous. You know what's going on? Zai was slightly startled. Xixia shook her head. I just have this feeling. In Sister Xixin's memory, Big Brother was in the same situation that day, but we can't stop Big Brother. Even if we tell him, he'll just find another place to rest. Xixia lowered her head and mumbled. The others looked at each other and sighed. She was right. They couldn't stop or predict what he was going to do. But are we just going to let him do it? Chu Yingzhan frowned. You all know what he'll do if he becomes like that. He doesn't even care about his own life. What else can we do? You go and persuade him? Zai glanced at her. Do you think he'll listen? But Zai. Chu Yingzhan gritted her teeth and couldn't say anything for a long time. The hall fell silent for a while. Hall Master Shui looked at them and said, All right, you all should go and rest. What's going to happen tonight is going to be terrible. It won't end until the next day. There won't be much time to rest before it ends. Zai sighed. All right, I'll go and rest as well. I'm also a bit tired. Everyone sighed. Hall Master Shui still had to check on the defenses of the 9 Shrine and contact the others to see if there were any oversights. The defenses at the original location had already been prepared, but there were some changes to the world fragment. She couldn't help but feel nervous. She had to prepare for the worst. Perhaps it was time to use the 40 Suns. Over at the Source Peak region, Yihong, Yuan Feiyang, and the others were waiting anxiously. Even though the defenses were very far away, they could sense that the other side was also anxiously waiting. They didn't stop in the city. The actions of the protectors in the city had aroused the vigilance of many people. They stubbornly refused to leave, believing that the protectors were plotting something. They even sealed the city gates and the Great City Barrier Array. Yihong and the others couldn't be bothered with them. The protectors simply didn't enter the city and didn't use their Great City Barrier Array. They were self-reliant and hid in the void, waiting for the stars to descend. The stubbornness of those people almost made them explode on the spot. Those defenses were not worth mentioning to Yihong and the others, and they could be torn apart easily. However, after thinking about their purpose here, they decided to ignore it. However, they subtly changed a certain joint barrier. If some people wanted to die, then let them die. That Lord had said that he couldn't stop others from seeking death. The original plan was to use the energy accumulated by the Great City Defense spell formation to resist the descending stars with the help of the many high-level gods, and even the gods. Without the former, there would be one less energy source, and there would be some difficulties due to insufficient energy. After all, what they had to deal with tonight was not a single star, but an entire galaxy. The arrangements have been made. The defense of the Divine Prefecture is considered complete. Little Divine Prefecture is also fine. The rules here are chaotic and affect the lives inside. Senior Yihong and the others' tokens are also very cooperative. The situation here is much better than the Source Peak region. The Ultimate Plane region has almost completed the transfer. There's still a small part that can be completed before the stars descend. The joint barrier is beginning to shrink and consolidate. Let's give up those useless lands. They won't be able to protect them in a few months anyway. The Ganyuan region and the Kuan-Yuan region have reported that the energy barrier has completely covered the area where the collision will take place. The area within 100 billion miles has been cleared. How's the situation of the temples? Everything is fine. Everyone, save up your energy. This is a special battle. We might not receive any reinforcements or supplies midway. I know, we might even die, right? But the spiritual temple should be ready, right? Don't worry. The spiritual temple, personally built by the first temple master, will ensure that you can come back to life even after you die. So don't worry and die. Hey. The topic you guys are talking about is a little high energy. Cough. Nine Gods Temple. Inform everyone that you guys talk too much. Although you know that you should say something to ease the tension, don't go overboard. Save some energy. The phaseless church is in place. There's no problem. Everything is in place at the Star Peak. The Xian family is fine here. The sky is showing signs of brightening. I think it's about time. This is the Royal Ridge clan, near the edge of the Source Peak region. We've seen many white dots of light appear in the sky. The speed at which those lights are spreading has definitely passed through the restraints of the laws. Everyone, the feast is about to begin. May the myriad gods protect the divine realm. May the myriad gods protect the divine realm. Myriad gods, the little star's radiance will illuminate the entire divine realm. The moment the voices ended, the creation's barrier that enveloped the entire divine realm lit up with an extremely bright light. In the distant star field, some distorted starlight passed through the star field at an abnormal speed, illuminating the entire divine realm. It was originally nighttime, but now it was almost daytime. The phenomenon that was even more exaggerated than daytime happened first at the edge of the Source Peak region and the Extreme Plane region, then quickly spread to the center of the two star fields. On the stone platform at the top of the Fire God Temple, Yun Nuoxing opened her red and black eyes. A brilliant light flashed through them. It has begun. Xian and Ming, who were sitting not far away, heard this and stood up nervously. They looked at the sky, which was faintly shining. Creation's barrier open. The barrier's consciousness waved its hand, and all the pillars of creation in the divine realm erupted with extremely powerful energy, and all of them surged into the creation's barrier. Just as they had said, a large amount of bright, white light pierced through the silence of the night. Buzz! A huge and dense energy ball broke through the creation's barrier. Its light dimmed in an instant, and its size slowly shrank. Suddenly, it appeared in the sky above the Source Peak region. The bright light made people who were used to the night squint their eyes. When they came back to their senses and looked up, countless people saw the big guy falling straight to the ground at a speed that was not completely reduced, rumbling and tearing space and time apart. Everyone, gather your energy and attack with all your might. A roar that tore through the night and day was accompanied by a huge energy beam that soared into the sky and pierced through the entire energy sphere. That star squirmed a few times before it shriveled up like a deflated balloon. The forceful detonation of energy erupted from within it, creating a huge energy radiance. Countless flames scattered in the sky, creating a ring of flames that burned passionately as they descended from the sky. It was extremely gorgeous and magnificent. Team 1, go and investigate. Team 2, go and gather your energy. Team 3, don't eat. Get ready for me. This won't be our last battle. The Lord Palace Master is watching us. The first sun to be detonated was the signal for the arrival of the galaxy. When that huge explosion was accompanied by a huge ring of flames, countless stars passed through the creation's barrier and fell from the sky like a group of angry meteors. They began to bombard this unlucky first major world. The boundless stars were countless times larger than a large city. They were the oldest stars in this star field, but there were also very young and huge suns. Every star that fell would directly cleanse a large area, leaving behind a huge hole that was melted by energy. Not even a speck of dust would be left behind. They connected into a galaxy and fell towards the celestial realm with hundreds and thousands of branches. The creation's barrier absorbed their energy and forced them to slow down. They gathered in the sky above the celestial realm and collided with each other. The huge weight and volume caused them to collide before they could land, and some even exploded in the sky. The incomparably brilliant new energy stars almost blinded everyone's eyes. A large number of stars that appeared the moment they appeared were lured into exploding in the sky by experts who risked blinding themselves to look at the sky and turned into brilliant fireworks. Kaboom! An incomparably huge star landed on the ground with a rumble. Light and flames instantly engulfed the ground for trillions of miles. The eruption of a new energy star would last for dozens of minutes or even several hours. It could even scorch the earth of the ultimate plane region. Like a rising star, the energy shock waves shook the entire ultimate plane region. On the ground, the sudden change in the weather shocked everyone. Then a ball of light so bright that it was blinding came crashing down from the sky with extremely violent energy. The sky became bright as day, and even more dazzling lights could be seen streaking across the horizon like a meteor shower. Those were the stars that were falling towards various parts of the celestial realm. The giant rings of light and flames in the sky would last for a long time, but they would also be blasted apart by the new energy stars in the same area. A few of the rings were blasted apart and turned into a mass of explosions. The meteor shower had officially descended, and the destructive energy caused countless people's faces to turn deathly pale. The forces that had been shouting, "This is all a conspiracy," shut their mouths awkwardly under the storm of explosions. The energy stars were like explosions in their hearts, causing them to tremble uncontrollably. They immediately gave up on everything and ran for their lives toward the other three regions. In the end, they were the ones shouting the loudest and running the fastest. However, it was all too late. The ultimate plane region was one of the epicenters of the explosions, and it definitely wouldn't be safe. When the first star landed on the combined barrier that spanned most of the celestial realms, Ihong and the others, who were the protectors of the ultimate plane region, felt their hearts skip a beat. The main event had begun. The test of life and death had only just begun. Chapter 1163. The roaring explosion of energy carried the aura of a galaxy, and it was extremely violent. It was as if the energy from the beginning of the world had swept over again and again. Monstrous waves like ripples appeared on the joint barrier, spreading towards the entire barrier. The points of impact were like softened noodles that kept trembling along with the ripples. Every time the magnitude of the impact increased, countless people's hearts would slow down a beat. The aura of annihilation came from the sky, suppressing the entire space and making it difficult to breathe. Ihong, how is the situation? Looking at the joint barrier in the sky that was swaying like noodles in the explosion of energy, Yuan Feiyong could not help but ask. Ihong raised his head and looked at the energy flames and explosions that filled the entire sky. The whole world was burning, and endless flames and energy attacks were constantly eroding the barrier. A powerful explosion of energy might not be worth their concern, but when the energy of this explosion was continuously attached to the energy barrier, it was a little dangerous. The energy that could not be poured out cleanly hit the energy barrier repeatedly, causing it to be on the verge of collapse. Would you believe me if I said that it was still under control? Ihong put on an expression that did not know whether to laugh or cry. What do you think? Yuan Feiyong grinned and looked up at the sky. The defense of the joint barrier has begun to weaken. Since the first sun hit the barrier, there have been frequent, huge impacts. The explosive energy has almost burned the land outside the barrier into charcoal. What's worse is the sunlight that contains the void fog. The city behind me has been completely destroyed. The light of the void fog is penetrative, and the temperature is even more terrible than hell to mortals. Ihong looked back at the city that was already burning, and there was no one left. If one did not have any defensive means, even high-level gods would not be able to withstand this temperature for too long. They had thought that this layer of barrier would be enough to block out the purgatory outside, but now it seemed that they had underestimated the void fog. After all, it was a strange thing that had destroyed thousands of worlds. When it came into contact with the void fog, the stars had already changed, and their light was no longer pure. I don't have a city here, so I'm not sure. The nearest city. I see it. Most people are evacuating. This distance should still be within the range of sunlight, so the barrier should still be effective. Perhaps it has been weakened by the void fog. Yihong nodded. The situation wasn't too bad. In the distant city, there were various kinds of panic and riots. Everyone was rushing into the portal. Those who were afraid of death and didn't want to let others go had already slipped away the moment they sensed the energy. The people from the Guardian forces were also able to enter the city and use the energy of the great defensive formation to defend and intercept. This also allowed them to take over the portal and buy time to evacuate the people. As long as everyone was evacuated, they could give up this place with no qualms. What a joke! How could they continue defending if they did not give up? Only half an hour had passed since the bombardment, and the barrier was constantly shaking like a softened crust. If there was an earthquake in the sky, they would not even know what level of tremor it was. In any case, they could only see pieces of the void and the huge creatures that were crossing the void. Change teams. Squad 4 for Squad 3. Squad 1 and Squad 5, get ready. Array masters and masters. Hurry up and adjust the formation. We need energy that surpasses the threshold. Draw all the forbidden techniques for me. We need the help of the energy of the entire world. If the stars fall on the barrier, we'll be done for. Squad 7, rest and reorganize. Squad 8, focus. Energy in a mutually reinforcing and counteracting manner. Aim at the brightest point in the sky. Don't think about seeing the enemy with your naked eyes. That's a sun. Now, attack with all your might. Shrine. This is Ming Ming City. We need the help of an array master who is proficient in space. The people here have already started to flee. They are all rushing toward the portal. Soon, the portal will overload. What? You're asking me where the array master is? Those damn people all ran away at the first moment. Disintegrate energy. Break the rules. Energy disintegrate. Squad 12, change. Squad 13, go. All levels of God Emperors. Focus on adjusting the formation. Squad 3, get ready. Damn, the firepower here is too strong. Are we being focused on? We're being focused on. If this continues, we won't be able to hold on. Shrine. Myriad Star City needs reinforcements. The defensive line stretched for countless miles. Every node had problems of various sizes. New situations were constantly occurring. Exhaustion, insufficient energy, damaged formations, unstable space formations, and all sorts of things were happening. At least for now, they could still hold on. The people guarding the barrier were doing their best to stop the stars from falling. The 7 heavenly gods were using their strongest energy to maintain the barrier and resist the stars. As for the others, they were in charge of escaping. After all, they were not counting on them. However, if someone really popped up and offered help, they would laugh out loud. They really needed manpower now. Even if it was just providing energy, it would be enough as long as someone could help maintain the energy output of the formation. No one. The unprecedented threat had stunned everyone. When they came to, the only thought left in their minds was to escape. Who would still want to help? If they could escape, they would have to thank the good karma of their previous lives. The creation's barrier still has some capacity, but only 1/5 of the star shower has passed. I'm afraid it won't hold on for long. Yun Nuoxing looked into the distance. Dense energy explosions were erupting all over the divine realm. Energy novas and energy flares illuminated the entire sky. At this moment, day and night were reversing. Before the star shower passed, there was no need to talk about night. Have the holdouts begun to evacuate? Ming asked. Originally, many people believed in the Guardian organization's warning and wanted to seek refuge. However, only a small portion of them succeeded. The major organizations in the city believed that this was the Guardian organization's scheme, so they sealed off the city and the teleportation gate. No one could escape. Yin Nuoxing tilted her head. What a twisted mind, playing some self-righteous little tricks. I don't care what they think. I don't want to understand. I only know that they delayed the evacuation of many people. When the calamity came, they fled, leaving the entire city behind without order, scrambling to seek refuge. If they had begun the evacuation earlier, there would not have been a single casualty in the divine realm. Now that things have turned out this way, Ordinary people would have lost their lives, and the protectors would have lost people as well. If not for my spiritual temple, they would have really died. In the end, the protectors would be the ones to suffer the most. In that case, why would the protectors be almost completely wiped out in the future? Isn't it because of those people? How sad. It's their sin to kill everyone, but they would not take it to heart. The law of karma has been locked. Ready. Confirm before activation. The barrier's consciousness said flatly. Confirm, lock, activate. Allow the effect of karma to trace back to the timeline and find their cause. Xian's face was filled with curiosity when he heard these things that he did not understand. He stared at Yin Nuoxing with eyes full of stars. Yin Nuoxing's cheeks trembled, and without her asking, Xian explained himself. If there is a sin in this world, find the source. They are the ones who caused this situation. They are the ones who are suspicious, and they have ulterior motives. However, they ran the fastest. I did not stop them. Let them run. The rain of stars has fallen, and every death will end a karmic cycle. The karmic cycle that has ended will lead to them, with the corresponding karmic effect. Even the cycle of reincarnation will not be able to escape. When Ming Ming heard this, he swallowed his saliva and his wings trembled a few times. Big brother, are you taking revenge? No, it has nothing to do with me. I'm just letting them bear the consequences of their sins. They can do whatever they want. If they can just run away and escape the blame, well, to be honest, I don't have to care about this. Hell will take care of it. My actions are superfluous, but I'm only concerned about karma in this world. They will take care of it in the next life. Not everyone is like that. Xian looked at the erupting world in the distance. The Guardian faction has mobilized quite a number of people in the beginning. At least the area west of the Source Peak region has been cleared, hasn't it? Yes, they were the fastest to react. They were even faster than the Ultimate Plane region. The Guardian faction's reputation in the more remote areas is quite imposing, and they were able to take people away. As for the Ultimate Plane region, the Demon Realm is also paying attention to the Nine Gods Temple. The Nine Gods Temple is the #1 faction on the surface, and they would react quickly at the slightest sign of trouble. Knowing the nature of the Guardian faction, it is reasonable for them to react quickly. As Yin Nuoxing spoke, he shifted his gaze even further away, towards the star field. Beyond the flames and barriers of the explosion, in the pitch-black star field, countless dazzling spots of light flickered. Those were even more stars that were risking their lives to rush towards the realm of the gods. A considerable number of them would descend during this period of time, and the dim starlight further away would be the next batch. He turned his gaze away from the stars and looked at the Source Peak region. Looking at the chaos everywhere, he could not help but shake his head. If they had listened to him and taken refuge earlier, things would not have turned out this way. There were many people here who could not escape, and the combined barrier that Yi Hong and the others had erected would not hold for long. Furthermore, the stars seemed to have a purpose in bombarding one place indiscriminately. Many of them were lined up in a row, and their heels collided with the centermost node of the barrier. That was probably the first place where a hole would appear. Yin Nuoxing's gaze swept over something, and the corners of his mouth curled into an inexplicable smile. He sat back down on the stone platform and said, "This is interesting. Some people have also made a move. It is rare that they would make a move at this time. So, there's been a slight change in the future. It is very slight. How many people can you save?" Fonger blinked. A high-level existence has made a move? Yin Nuoxing shook his head. A high-level existence has given a push. The weak power has changed the course of the future. It is just a little bit of power. He waved his hand, and a large area of images appeared out of thin air. Everyone hurriedly moved closer to take a look. They saw a large area of exploding flames, the soaring light of new energy stars, distorted space, shattered void, and shattered space-time. In any case, it looked like a hodgepodge. There were all kinds of strange destructive phenomena, and they were all the mess left behind by the explosions of those huge stars. If it had not been for the order barrier supporting the space of the God Realm, the Source Peak domain would have been completely destroyed. Even if it had not been blown to smithereens, there would have been no way to repair it. In one of the images, a group of people holding dim star power rose up against the sky. They used the aura of the star field and the stars to protect themselves. They went against the sky and faced the descending stars. Perhaps it was because they had done a lot of research on star power. A high-level god could fight against an entire star alone. Cough. This was an illusion. At most, they were just holding on. They did not have the rules and energy annihilation attacks that the Guardian forces had racked their brains to come up with. Just relying on star power alone to take a shortcut would require a dozen high-level gods to go all out. Moreover, they were few in number. However, with their participation, the United Barrier became more stable. Using star power to block the violent power of the starry sky, Yun Nuashing wanted to praise them. Ah, it is the people of the Star Palace. They have come to meddle in this matter? Hall Master Shui was a little surprised. The 12-Star Palace had long been a member of the Guardian Forces. She did not expect them to step forward at this time. Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4 Star Palaces. I can't see clearly which 4 palaces they are, but I can recognize 4 characteristics. Yin Nuashing nodded. When we purge, we can start from this side. He sighed and said lightly, no matter who it is, what force it is, if they can put aside their prejudices and step forward in the face of a world-ending crisis, they can be counted as heroes. Well, I know you guys like to talk about this kind of stuff, so I just said it. On the contrary, those who take advantage of the situation and do things against the will, well, I am too lazy to care. It has nothing to do with me. Everyone laughed bitterly. Halfway through, they thought that he was going to say something righteous. But this was the little Xing they were familiar with. Yin Nuashing pondered for a while. Then, he turned to look at Hall Master Shui. What about the 66 stars that fell behind? I have calculated the time. Almost half of them have appeared. No problem. Hall Master Shui made a perfect hand gesture. The 3 or 4 that came from the North Ice Realm were taken care of by the 2 elders of the Xian family. The other stars are fine. They were not completely destroyed, but the combined barrier held. There was one star that was supposed to land in a place where no one wanted to pay attention to at first, but Little Light said that he was restless, so he volunteered to guard it. In the end, something really happened. That sun inexplicably deviated and crashed straight into the nearest city, right? Yin Nuashing said. How did you know? Hall Master Shui was stunned for a moment. Then, she realized without waiting for an explanation. Oh, right. Little star, I forgot that you are the observer. You know everything that happens in the realm of the gods. Cough. I didn't see it before. By the time I took a look, it had already happened. Yin Nuashing shook his head and said, the void fog. When these words came out, the corners of everyone's eyes twitched. This was a notorious thing in the Dark Age. It was thrown out by the people of the underworld to bring disaster to the entire 8 Elements realm. After knowing its nature, they knew that it was definitely not a good thing. It was a world fragment and a tide of darkness. What the hell was that? The void fog has descended upon the realm of the gods. Everyone's heart skipped a beat when they heard this. But after listening carefully, it did not sound like Yin Nuashing's voice. Even if his voice had changed, it was still a soft girl's voice. Even if it was cold, it still had a certain flavor. However, this was a strong male voice, not the hollow voice of the barrier's consciousness. Everyone turned their gazes in unison and saw a man covered in golden light standing in the starry yellow sand. His appearance was exactly the same as the Yun Nua planet in the past. Yo, it's me. The man raised his hand to greet Yin Nuashing. Then, he coughed softly and took 2 steps away to make way for the scene in front of him. As you said, the tide of darkness has gathered, but it's here. There are quite a lot of them, but they don't seem to be moving out yet. Look, an image appeared behind him. Stars streaked across the sky like shooting stars. On a vast land of yellow sand, there was an uncomfortable black color that dyed the yellow sand. That color and that aura made people feel extreme disgust and discomfort even though they were separated by an image. The void fog. Ziyin subconsciously clenched her jade-like hands. She had seen it a few times before, so she immediately recognized what that monstrous mass of black gas was. It had gathered into a large area. Perhaps it wasn't as large as the realm of darkness in the small divine land, but the tide of darkness and the void fog could expand on their own. If left alone for a period of time, it could even dye a region black, or even a world's light mass. Xu Yingzhan noticed that sentence and could not help but look at Yin Nuoxing. Idiot, you know that the void fog is going to fall on the realm of the gods. Yin Nuoxing glanced at her and nodded. It's an unexpected gain. When I went back to the Dark God Palace, I saw traces of the void fog. Kai Xia continued. We saw a lot of strange traces left behind by the void mist spawns there. There was also a big guy left there, but he killed it with a single slash of his sword. However, the void mist and all the spawns, they were all gone. Yin Nuoxing replied, previously, we dealt with a portion of the tide of darkness that had a little bit of intelligence in the realm of darkness in the small divine land. I guess that part of the tide of darkness might be the same, but they're now in hiding. On the day of Constellation's descent today, Constellation even brought a portion of the void mist here a few months in advance to gather on the realm of the gods as the vanguard. Wait a minute, boss. Nightmare looked up and asked, wasn't there a malicious message that spread across the realm of the gods? Look, the dark army in the realm of the darkness went straight for you. Why did they leave a part of them behind? That doesn't make sense. Because they are hiding in the Dark God Palace. That's the only explanation. The Dark God Palace is in the void, and there are elements of chaos and darkness in the Dark God Palace itself. The two special forces affected the place, and in turn, protected a part of the Dark Army. Yin Nuoxing frowned as she spoke. Tisk, it's really troublesome. Why didn't they just come here and accept their deaths? It's not a problem for me to get rid of them now. Golden Bright Shine poked his head out from the projection and grinned at the crowd. His 8 big teeth were shining brightly. Let me tell you, this border area is very strange. Not a single star has fallen. They have all smashed into the central area. Look, this Star Spirit City is still here. Don't you think it's strange or not? If there's really no problem here, I will eat this entire desert. Yin Nuoxing sighed deeply. All right, I'll leave the Dark Army there to you. No, wait a minute. Let's wait for this round of stars to pass. The void fog actually showed a weak intelligence, and it's gathering in many places at the moment. When they've gathered, we'll kill them in one blow. Don't let any of them escape. While you're at it, take a look at Star Twinkling City and under your desert to see if there's anything there. Be careful. Got it. Golden Brilliance replied and disappeared in a flash. After Yin Nuoxing finished speaking, she felt a slight headache. Those huge, passionate suns were not just highly concentrated energy clusters. They were born naturally in the galaxy, and even if they were a combination of energy, they would not go berserk if no one touched them. Even the brightest spark in this world, the new energy star at that moment, could only threaten early-stage gods, and even emperor gods could withstand it. However, those irascible big guys were all infected by the void fog. It was a little similar to the elements of chaos, and they were all products of the world's error. They were extremely destructive and distorting, and in a matter of minutes, those big guys would be twisted into extremely powerful bombs. Anyway, it was already like this, and they were still hurling towards the celestial realm. If they were just pure energy, it would be fine. They all contained a little bit of the void fog, and when they passed through the creation's barrier, they would accidentally touch a little bit of the void fog. That was why Yin Nuoxing did not dare to let the creation's barrier absorb all of the energy. She could only reduce it a little and be careful. However, the combined barrier of Yi Hong and the others could not do that. Forcefully withstanding the new energy star with the void fog was a great loss to their barrier, and almost all of the destructive damage was caused by the void fog. Everyone looked nervously at the many projections, and from time to time, they would look up at the exploding sky in the distance. They were extremely nervous. It should be night now, but it was brighter than any day. Tens of millions of suns came one after another, and night was far away. Chapter 1164. There isn't a lot of void fog and stars, but tens of millions of stars are a different concept. Even if 10 million ants are gathered together, it would still be a very large mass. But the void fog in the stars is not just a little bit. When gathered together, it would be enough to affect the normal operation of the laws. Yin Nuashing tilted her head and looked at the starry sky. The realm of the gods has accumulated a certain amount of void fog, and it is all gathered in the Sourcepeak domain. The newly fallen void fog is also passing through the void and converging there. The amount of void fog that has accumulated there has caused an imperceptible change in various parts of the realm of the gods. At first, it was just a slight change in the laws, but when the laws of the realm of the gods are invaded and a hole is drilled through, the life forms that rely on the laws of the realm of the gods will feel uncomfortable. If it is more serious, it will be like the small divine land now. Is that thing so powerful? Then why didn't the small divine land collapse? The realm of darkness has existed for 1,000 years. If there was any change, it would have happened long ago, Chu Yingjian said. The laws of the ancient era are much stronger than the laws of heaven and earth of the realm of the gods today. Moreover, the part that was cut off still contains part of the core of the laws of the realm of the gods, and its self-healing ability is not something that the laws of the realm of the gods today can compare to. Moreover, the void fog in the realm of darkness is not as large as it is now, so naturally, it will not affect the small divine land. Hall Master Shui understood. That is to say, the void fog that is gathered now is enough to crush the sea of laws of the realm of the gods, so it will take root in the laws, constantly eating away and growing. Yin Nuashing nodded in affirmation. The defeated stars. The power of the void fog will be destroyed by the stars, but the stars that collide with the barrier or the earth will have physical contact. The void fog will be able to transport itself to the place it comes into contact with at that moment of contact. Chu Yingjian muttered and looked up at the image. Can that golden guy get rid of the void fog? Yin Nuashing pondered for a moment upon hearing this. It shouldn't be a problem. He's at the peak of the divine level and close to becoming a heavenly god. No matter how much void fog there is, it shouldn't be a problem. Just as the few of them were talking, in the dazzling light at the horizon, an intense black light suddenly dyed the sky black. In that instant, it felt as if the day had passed and the night had returned. However, everyone felt that this was not a normal situation. There was an extremely disgusting aura spreading out. The rich aura of the stars told them that something was coming from beyond the sky. Yin Nuashing faintly shifted her gaze. Something has appeared. What is it? Chu Yingjian replied subconsciously. Then, she glared at him helplessly. Can't you say it all at once? It's very tiring to listen like this. Yin Nuashing lazily leaned back and let out a long sigh. When the stars are falling, what else can descend? Of course, it's the sun. He paused for a moment, then said faintly, It's a very heavily infected big guy. That thing might require the full strength of a heavenly god to defeat. Everyone felt a chill in their hearts. The last sentence seemed to be very serious. They were already very surprised that a heavenly god would appear when the laws were withering. However, the heavenly gods themselves were suppressed, so it was unlikely that they would use their full strength. Far away at the edge of the Sourcepeak region, Jean Cancan, who was surrounded by the Dark Army, suddenly stopped what he was doing. He raised his head as if he had sensed something. At the same time, he slapped away a dark giant beast that was charging at him. His eyes flickered slightly. This is a big problem. Are we going to fight this thing or not? Roar, roar, roar. The dark army that covered the mountains and plains let out a roar that shook the clouds. It sounded like a victory cry. They actually stopped what they were doing and looked up at the sky. What are you roaring for? I haven't even said anything yet. Jean Cancan rolled his eyes fiercely and sighed. I'm really making things difficult for people. I'm a metal elemental. I can still accept being a meat shield. You want me to hold up an entire army by myself? I'm going to kill every single one of them until my hands go numb. Looking at the dark army that was obviously a little too excited, Jean Cancan let out a bitter laugh. Forget it. That big guy was not under his control. It was better to let them deal with it. If they couldn't deal with it, he would be the one to increase the pressure anyway. Yin Nuashing waved his hand, and those images floated to the side. A new image appeared in front of them, reflecting a star region. In the empty star region, distorted starlight flashed past in the distance. There were very few stars. At the center of the image was a whirlpool that was emitting a strange black light. The star region was originally pitch black, but they could distinguish this thing that was even darker. The whirlpool that they saw only took up a small part of the image, but it was actually very large. It was so large that it could disturb the surrounding starlight and distort the starry sky. The dark and gloomy sky was emitting an ominous light. There's something with a huge mass and abnormal energy that's disturbing the starlight. Hall Master Shui looked at the distorted starry sky and couldn't help but frown. Only when the energy is compressed to a certain extent will it reveal such a thick energy before the target appears. Something is about to appear. Yin Noashing waved his hand and said, "Tell the 7 guys to prepare." 8 people, 8 heavenly gods should be able to kill it with one all-out attack. Hall Master Shui nodded and hurriedly searched for the soul seeds in their souls. A large-scale chaotic starlight is about to descend. The target will appear directly within 1 light year of the realm of the gods. The creation's barrier will be closed for 0.3 seconds. In this 0.3 seconds, 3 stars will be missed. A collision is almost inevitable. The new target will move slowly and have enough time to prepare. Please be prepared to resist the impact and intercept. The voice of the barrier's consciousness sounded directly in the minds of Yihong and the others, causing them to tremble. Although they didn't really understand what it was saying, they felt that something was wrong. The creation's barrier will be closed. The energy absorption will decrease at the same time. Please be prepared. The target will appear. 5, 4, 3. At this moment, everyone guarding the creation's barrier was shocked. Everyone raised their heads and had an inexplicable feeling in their hearts that something was about to descend. They felt that there was some kind of light that could penetrate the laws of nature. 2, 1. The target has appeared. The creation's barrier will be closed and then reopened. The creation's barrier was closed and reopened almost at the same time. The entire creation's barrier shook violently. The light suddenly flickered and disappeared in an instant. Then 0.3 seconds later, it suddenly covered the entire realm of the gods. It flickered for a moment, as if the blue sky had disappeared and reappeared in an instant. Nothing had happened. Boom! In an instant, a fiery explosion shot up into the sky. The energy that was more than 1 level stronger than the bombardment of countless stars suddenly erupted. 3 huge dents appeared in the creation's barrier. It was as if the sky had collapsed. This made Yihong and the others, as well as the people guarding the creation's barrier, feel their hearts skip a beat. The impact of the explosion lasted for a moment, causing them to be stunned for a moment. However, they quickly recovered and hurriedly injected all their energy into the creation's barrier. Team 13, continue to intercept the stars. Teams 14 to 20, inject energy into the creation's barrier. Hurry! If we can't withstand this wave of destructive energy, we won't be able to withstand the next wave. Damn it, there's no one here. Don't worry about those stars. Let's hold them off first. This energy is comparable to the energy of a divine-level god. If there's a gap, the entire creation's barrier will collapse. A huge spatial crack was left in the distorted space of the star region. A huge object with distorted energy broke out of its cocoon. Just its existence alone was enough to make the void ripple and even fade. It fell into the realm of the gods at the same time and then stopped in the sky. Behind it was the creation's barrier that had just closed. Its huge size and huge energy reaction attracted the attention of countless people. Even those who stood in the corner of the Ganyuan region could see a black star appear in the sky, causing the sky to darken as if night had returned. The ferocious black energy orb crashed into the eyes of Yihong and the others, churning black energy and rioting void shrouds. It was a sun completely tainted by the void shrouds. It was a derivative of the void shrouds, containing dozens of times more void shrouds than half of the stars before combined. Whether it fell or not, whether it was destroyed or not, it would pour endless void shrouds over the divine realm. It was just a matter of how much there was. "Screw you," Ihong cursed and pointed his middle finger at the sky. Then he took a deep breath. "Whatever. Leave some energy to maintain the creation's barrier, and use the rest all at once." Yuan Feiyang did not say a word. His mind and hand seals changed at the same time. A vertical eye slowly opened between his brows, and a monstrous energy gushed out of his body. An energy so great that it could distort and shatter the void condensed within millions of miles around him. The world became distorted as the divine energy flowed through every part of his body, restoring his youthful appearance. His head of messy black hair danced wildly in the wind. He put his hands together to form a circle and looked up at the place where the light was dim. The energy flames that filled the sky and the black starlight penetrated all light and fell upon the entire world. But he did not need to see it. He could feel the existence of the sun that was condensed from the void fog. It was an irritating feeling that existed there. For the realm of the gods. Destroy it. At the same time that Ihong's hot-blooded shout rang out, an extremely powerful energy suddenly erupted from every corner of the Sourcepeak region. A monstrous energy storm swept across the sky of the entire realm of the gods, causing many to turn their gazes. The sleepers also opened their eyes that had been closed for a long time. They could feel the vast energy and were speechless for a long time. 8 huge torrents of energy erupted at the same time. Their extreme speed allowed them to ignore the difference in distance, instantly condensing into an unimaginably powerful torrent of energy that pierced through the distant space, piercing through the void, sweeping across the entire sky. The dazzling torrent of energy was even more dazzling than the eruption of energy flames from millions of stars. The unprecedentedly powerful torrent of energy tore apart every giant star in its path. This was truly violent energy, and it was even purer and more violent than the destructive energy that the many god emperors had gathered. The void screeched crazily, and the black color faded into a faint purplish black. An indescribable energy swept across the sky like a distorted source, causing the stars to deviate from their falling trajectories. They collided with each other, and even when they were thousands of kilometers away, they disintegrated on their own. Then, under the shocked gazes of countless people, the torrent of energy charged into the black sun. The energy torrent has destroyed a group of stars. The target, Ihong, and the others widened their eyes. They were unable to observe the effects of this attack, but the irritation in their hearts reminded them that the realm of the gods might not have been destroyed as they had imagined. The rumbling of the void's destruction descended from the sky. The energy torrent of energy had exhausted all of its energy, and a strand of black starlight once again illuminated the entire realm of the gods. Countless people's faces turned deathly pale. Ihong and the others also fiercely punched the void. Mother Kerr, the void stability is decreasing. The target has suffered light damage, and the speed of its descent is increasing. There are only 5 minutes left before it hits the combined barrier. This terrible news from the barrier's consciousness caused everyone to spit in disgust. What the hell was this? Elder, gather everyone's power and attack again. I'll think of a way to delay it for a minute. Ihong cursed fiercely. His hand seals changed, and his already somewhat empty body squeezed out even more energy. The capacity of a heavenly god's body was unimaginably large, but they were suppressed by the laws of heaven and earth. Even as they resisted, they still sealed a part of their origin. If they used that part of their origin, the power that they could unleash would be even weaker than it was now. Just as he was about to unleash his blood and soul, to charge forward and risk his life, a voice that seemed to have come from an icy cavern rang out. This voice caused his heart to skip a beat. Step back. You guys can rest. The cold voice caused him to shiver, and the energy that he had violently gathered in his body shrank back. Ihong swallowed, scratched his head in embarrassment, and took a few steps back. Although there was nothing in front of him, and there was no one behind him, he still felt as if the heavenly god of primal chaos was standing beside them at this very moment. He was standing in front of them and watching this grand battle. It took him 2 seconds to figure out the source of this feeling. He was an observer, so naturally he could see the entire picture of this battle. At the beginning of the world, the end of primal chaos. Yin Nuoxing stood at the top of the fire god temple, and the elements of primal chaos surged around his body like clouds. 6 pitch-black wings surrounded the elements of primal chaos, and 5 dim black halos appeared behind his back. His red and black eyes had completely turned black, and only a dim circle of color was left in his pupils. Little star, is it really okay for you to forcefully attack? Temple Master Shui pressed down on her robe and hair that were blown up by the elements of primal chaos that swept past her. Yin Nuoxing was accumulating energy, and she knew that he was accumulating spiritual power. I don't know. The future is not fixed. I don't know if this attack will affect anything, and I don't know if there will be any changes if I continue to accumulate energy. Yin Nuoxing's eyes flashed. This black thing did not appear in our expectations. This should be caused by me. At least, I should clean up this mess. The future, let's talk about it in the future. If we don't solve this, how can we talk about the future? Yin Nuoxing showed a helpless smile. He was still cold, but everyone felt that he was still the little star of the past. It was just that for some things, for some goals that he had to achieve, he had to become like this. If not, he would not be able to hold on, and he would not be able to achieve it. Xian looked at him quietly. His eyelids drooped slightly, and he whispered in his heart, "How much have you sacrificed?" Yin Nuoxing took a deep breath. He stretched out his right hand and squeezed the air as if he wanted to crush the thing in his palm. The 5 halos behind him quickly spun a few times and suddenly disappeared. A few magic circles rose from the bottom of his feet into the sky, turning into circles of black halos that swept across the sky. Chaos, withering. The colossal black sun was still pressing down on the ground. Ihong watched as that thing approached the combined barrier, and sweat seeped out. This was the first time he had directly faced the void fog. It was even more bizarre and evil than what the heavenly god of primal chaos had told him. It seemed to have the power to distort the world, as if it had appeared in this world to destroy the laws of this world. The violent and strange light of energy landed on the ground and on his body, causing his thoughts to become a little chaotic. He had no choice but to release his spiritual power to resist the black sunlight. The black halos swept across the sky, causing the corners of his eyes to twitch. He reflexively turned his gaze, but he saw nothing. He was stunned for a moment, but he knew that he should focus on what was in front of him. He hurriedly turned his gaze back, and the energy flames that had not yet dissipated in front of him seemed to have disappeared. Ihong was stunned for a moment. The sky had suddenly become very clean. It should have been filled with countless energy storms, countless energy bursts, flames, and shockwaves. But now it was so clean that only the black sun and its polluting sunlight were left. The combined barrier had returned to its original state at some point in time. He was stunned for a moment, shook his head, and thought that this was an illusion caused by the black light shining on him. He hurriedly steadied his mind and took a deep breath. Then, he discovered that the distortion of space had weakened a little. The black sun was like a rubber ball that was being squeezed from 2 sides toward the middle by 2 large hands. The entire sun was trembling, and it was even spewing out black flames. The leaking void fog desperately tried to escape, but it was restrained in that space by the 2 large hands. It trembled and fluctuated with the sun, and then slowly shrank. It gradually shrank from such a huge sun to a few hundred times smaller, and its shape became like a leaking balloon. One side was bulging high, and the entire sphere was rapidly shriveling. The energy seemed to have been sucked out, and the void fog disappeared. The entire process lasted for a few minutes, and the black sun shrank at a visible rate before finally disappearing. Ihang's eyes widened. This time, there was nothing left in the sky. There was no black light, no energy flames, and night fell once again. The sky was clear and clean, and he could see the gorgeous starry sky and the hostility hidden in the starry sky. There was also a white belt of light across the sky, and specks of light appeared directly in front of him. Is that a world fragment? Ihang looked at the white belt of light and breathed a long sigh. He felt a little pressured just by looking at it from such a distance. He could not see that thing the night before, but now the sky was too clean. There was probably not much atmosphere left, and that was why he could see what was hidden in the distant star system. There were also those dense specks of starlight. Those must be the stars, and they were so bright. And they were getting brighter. The stars will descend in 2 minutes. The first wave of stars is about to welcome the last wave. Take the time to rest. That indifferent and hollow voice rang in his mind, causing Ihang to reveal a smile that was uglier than crying. He knew that he had forgotten something. Wasn't that rapidly enlarging white that the thing that had bombarded their combined barrier for nearly an hour? Damn it, would you die if you came a little later? That soul-stirring thing just went by, damn it. Ihang cursed angrily, but before he could finish, his heart trembled violently. In his senses, something with an extremely high energy reaction appeared at the edge of the realm of the gods again. The night suddenly disappeared, and the night that lasted for a short 1 or 2 minutes faded away. The skies suddenly fell, and it was so unpredictable that countless people in the realm of the gods could only smile bitterly. Before the first wave subsided, another wave rose. They thought that it would be over when they saw the sky turn dark, but who would have thought? Boom! A violent explosion came from the horizon once again. The energy flames that spread across the entire sky dyed the sky whiter than snow. It was so bright that it almost blinded anyone who looked directly at it. This night was quite far away. Chapter 1165. No void fog remains at the location where the target disappeared. The balance of the celestial realm has returned to normal for now. Future recalculation and redirection. There is nothing to change for now. The voice of the barrier's consciousness was heard. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief. This storm had passed. They could relax for a while. No, they did not even have the time to relax. Looking at the sky that had been blown apart, where would they find the time to relax? The stars were still hanging high above their heads, and the death omen star was shining brightly. Yin Nuoxing sat back on the stone platform and leaned back lazily. Beads of sweat appeared on her forehead. She had taken the risk to destroy the giant star that had been completely contaminated by the void fog, and it had consumed a lot of her energy. At the same time, her heart was shrouded in a layer of haze. If a mere mid-level spawn was so difficult to deal with, how would they deal with the army of darkness that had filled the entire world fragment? Looks like it's still the same. She sighed quietly, and a thought in her mind became even more firm. A few girls sat on the edge of the temple's roof and stretched out their little hands to count the exploding stars. It was now the end of the 1 hour since the stars had descended. The great storm had not destroyed the Taiyuan region's united barrier, and the exploding stars in the distance were still beautiful and breathtaking. The barrier that spanned across the entire region was no longer as strenuous as it was in the beginning, and there was no longer the danger of being hit by 3 stars at full force not long ago. The scene that could be seen by the entire celestial realm had caused a morbid excitement in the other regions. Now it had finally calmed down. Faint voices could be heard in the city that had been cut off. Those who knew were discussing the united barrier, while those who did not know were worriedly talking about the flames above their heads. Things did not seem to be as bad as they seemed. Yin Nuo Planet and the barrier's consciousness had once said that this first round would wipe out 3% of the lives in the Source Peak region. However, in reality, less than 1% of the lives had perished in the meteor shower. Those who had died were those who had been close to the combined barrier. Those who had been watching the show and those who had been holed up in the Great City Barrier Formation had all been vaporized by the light that penetrated the laws of the void. Other than that, there were no other losses. This was the result of Yun Nuo planet's intervention. If the demon realm had appeared at that time and caused chaos at the rear, the whole thing would not have been so simple. After an entire hour of bombardment and the giant star that descended with millions of void fog, the starry sky within a certain range of the celestial realm had gradually calmed down. From time to time, there would be some stars that would pass through the creation's barrier and fall. This made the people who were guarding the united barrier breathe a sigh of relief. They knew that the battle was about to end, but they still did not dare to let down their guard. They had made it through the peak in front of them, and it would be a shame if they missed something now. They would have to apologize to the entire Guardian force. The creation's barrier, which was overcharged with energy, began to slowly release its energy into the void. The people guarding the combined barrier also had some time to rest and slowly recover their energy. Every node had rich energy. Although most of it was drained during the battle, it was still enough for them to recover their strength. The barrier also recovered from its soft noodle state. A few minutes ago, the descending stars could no longer touch it. They were all destroyed in midair. Those who were resting could also enjoy the fireworks in the sky. The ebb and flow of the tides. They finally made it to the end of this round. Although I know that there will be a second round in an hour, and the second round is much more exciting than the first. Yihong stretched his body. Let's take the time to rest. It should not be a problem for us to recover to our normal state in an hour. I wonder if the creation's barrier can release all the absorbed energy in an hour. No, it can't. The creation's barrier is releasing energy fast enough, but it has absorbed too much energy. Some of it still has void mist and needs to be dealt with carefully. It can't be faster. Before the second round of Star Shower, it can only release half of its capacity. The empty and indifferent voice of the barrier's consciousness rang in his mind. Yihong shook his head helplessly. As expected, there was no way to think too highly of things. They still needed to work hard. How? Is the heavenly god. He destroyed an entire star of void mist. You should tell him not to force himself. I'm a little tired. It's nothing serious. Yihong clicked his tongue when he heard that. As expected of the heavenly god of chaos, a being known as a taboo in that era, it was only a little tiring for him to get rid of that big guy. 8 heavenly gods could not even destroy that big guy with one strike. Even if they were in their prime, they would not dare to say that they could easily get rid of that big guy. After all, that was an amalgamation of void mist. It was not that easy to deal with. The sparse rumbling of destruction lasted for 5 minutes before it completely stopped. Countless people stared at the sky with their eyes wide open. They watched as the sky slowly darkened and night returned to this part of the sky. They all breathed a sigh of relief. They could rest for a while. This time, they could really rest for a while, although it was only for a short hour. All nodes report the battle losses. Those who can still move, check outside the barrier. Kaming City has been completely destroyed. Those who refused to run were vaporized the moment the sun shone on the city. Only we and the great defensive formation are left here. Not even a brick can be found within a radius of 1,000,000 miles. This is the edge of the Zenith region. This Zenith region has been completely destroyed. The places near the edge of the Divine Prefecture and the Ganyuan region are peaceful. No stars have fallen in this area. The rear is safe and sound. You can rest assured, big shots. Hearing the reports from all sides, the people of the Guardian forces all breathed a sigh of relief. It was scary but not dangerous. They had finally made it through. Hall Master Shui said, "We can't relax yet. Seize the time to rest and restore the joint barrier. Increase the speed of the transfer. The joint barrier can also shrink the defensive line according to the retreat range. It's still too big to protect half of the Zenith region. There are many loopholes in the defense." About this, Hall Master, there's a small problem. An Emperor God powerhouse who was assisting in the transfer smiled bitterly. What? Hall Master Shui frowned. She had an inexplicable bad feeling. Right now, most of the people we are transferring are evacuating from the western part of the Zenith region. Right now, We are in Heaven's Slayer City, which is slightly east of the central part of the Zenith region. As soon as we left the range of Xingming City, those people who escaped stopped. And they stopped, same here. By the way, Xingming City hasn't moved since the beginning. The godly spirit powerhouse guarding the city swore to everyone that their barrier was so strong that it was impenetrable. Anyway, none of them escaped. This is just a low-level energy node. We haven't entered it since the beginning. If we evacuate according to the plan, Xingming City will become the front of the entire barrier. What? They are willing to die, but you don't want to leave? No, I'm worried that they will break through the barrier and cause more than half of the people in the Zenith region to die with them. This is a place where birds don't lay eggs. I don't know where it is. I brought the group of people who escaped here to set up camp. They think that the disaster is over, so they want to rebuild the city. Shrines, what should we do here? Bah, my group is even stronger. They want to go back outside the barrier to rebuild the city. Hell, there's only scorched earth and huge energy waves that haven't dissipated yet. Just one wave is enough to kill everyone a few 100 million times. That's why I said that these hundreds of millions of people are difficult to deal with. Most of them are just making a ruckus. The name of the Guardian Force is not useful. We can't beat them or drive them away. I quit, okay? They don't want to live, so I want to save some people who are more dangerous. Hall Master Shui felt a bit of a headache. Why did they stop running halfway? Did they feel safe? Someone who could come up with the idea of setting up camp here must be a genius. Their spirits are too strong. They haven't reached the point where they are really nervous yet. The excess spirit and the lack of tension created the current situation. A cold voice came from behind. Hall Master Shui turned around and looked at Yun Nuashing. After a moment of hesitation, she said, "Little star, do you think? Give up? Leave if you want. The chance to survive is for those who have a sense of crisis. If they feel safe, then let them be. If they don't want to live, then leave the chance to live to others." Yin Nuashing replied lazily, "I once saved a group of people. The high tension and chaos for a long time had eroded their fighting spirit. They had no spirit and were numb. They could only obey orders. I think those people were easier to save. They submitted to power and listened to orders. At least after they settled down, they could come back to life with some time. Unlike these people, we've already said everything. The Reign of Stars is not the first round, and more places have been abandoned. 2 large regions will eventually be destroyed. It's just a piece of land. You want to talk about feelings with me? This kind of thing is only meaningful when you're giving up your life. If they want to talk, then let them talk. Then just give up." Yin Nuashing said coldly and sighed. "Anyway, I don't have feelings." Hall Master Shui hesitated. In fact, she would try her best to save as many people as she could. However, there were billions of people. If they didn't want to leave, there was nothing she could do. After hesitating for a while, she sighed and said those words. After all, he was right. Some people didn't want to live, but there were still people who wanted to live. This time, there was no such thing as being kept in the dark. Everyone from the celestial gods to the mortals without any power knew about this news. Some listened to the Guardian faction and retreated to the 3 large regions. Some people didn't want to leave after some time. They were the ones who made the choice. They had said all the good words. The Guardian faction didn't have many people to waste. Instead of spending a lot of energy persuading those who didn't want to leave, it was better to save those who wanted to leave but couldn't. Understood. Carry out the retreat plan. Yihong nodded and waved at the people who were far away. Guys, let's go. Retract the combined barrier and preserve the nodes. It's time for us to move. We can at least shrink the defensive circle a little. It's better to shrink it a little. It won't be so stressful if we concentrate our forces. Yuan Feiyong and the others nodded and waved their hands. The protective barrier began to change shape. 6 or 7 parts of the barrier changed shape to different degrees. A few seconds later, it shrank toward the eastern region of the Source Peak domain. As the size and distance between them shrank, the transparent barrier flowed with an even stronger light and became even more solid. Brother Yun, will we never see the Origin Glacier again? suddenly said from the top of the temple. Everyone was stunned. Yin Nuashing was also stunned. Why do you say that? You pointed at the divine realm model in front of them. Because the Source Peak domain and the ultimate plane domain are about to be abandoned. The falling stars would smash the north and south ice realms. Yin Nuashing raised his brow in response, showing a rather odd smile and shaking his head. The north and south ice realms won't be destroyed. Even if the stars fall there, they won't be shaved off by a single centimeter. The Source Peak domain and the ultimate plane domain won't be destroyed either, or at least they won't be blown up by the stars. On the day of the Great Collision, the two domains and the layer of the bottom of the world would be smashed apart, but not now. The void shroud in the stars isn't strong enough to destroy the two domains. At most, the surface would be scraped away and washed over hundreds or thousands of times. Then I can go see the Origin Glacier in the future. Yuer smiled happily. Can Brother Yin take me to see the Origin Glacier after we settle down? I want to see the sky-falling waterfall. Yin Nuashing looked at the rather strange girl, unsure of what she was thinking. But that promise shouldn't be a problem, and so he nodded. All right. Yuer giggled as she held Little Moon's arm and rested her chin on the latter's shoulder. Suddenly, she showed a rather sad expression and muttered, Brother Yin, do I have to go back? Yin Nuashing was startled. He finally understood why the little girl showed such a sad expression. She knew that they had come out of the demon world and was worried that he would be taken back by the ancient demon gods. He subconsciously reached out to pat the little girl's head, but his body stiffened as soon as he raised his hand. He calmly stopped and softly said, It's up to you to decide where you want to go. If you want to go back to the demon world, I will take you back. If you want to stay here, stay in the 9th shrine, stay by our side, then be bold and stay. Hearing that, Yuer smiled brightly and shook Little Moon's arm. Then I'll stay. As they spoke, a Deity Hall elder emerged from the void and cupped his hands at Deity Hall Master Shui and Yin Nuashing. Deity Hall Master, Grand Hall Master, outside the Deity Hall. Miss Chufin requests an audience. Requests an audience? That little torch dragon? Hall Master Shui turned her head. That child. Didn't I tell her to be more casual? She's asking for an audience. Forget it. Tell her to come in quickly. No, she's weak. Hurry up and bring her in. The Water Spirit Temple elder nodded, his figure flickering and disappearing. Speaking of which, I haven't seen the torch dragons yet. Chu Yingzhan looked at the floating islands in the distance and said casually, I thought this space had become the Guardian faction's base. Actually, we did plan to, but the arrival of the meteor shower disrupted our plans, so we had to postpone it for a while. Hall Master Shui smiled. The torch dragons are still in the demon world, but there's a portal here that can go there directly. If there's nothing else, let them move in. Everyone paused and turned around to see Nuashing lazily lying on the stone platform. She looked listless and yawned one after another. Dummy, what did you see this time? Nothing. Yin Nuashing yawned and shook her head. The second change in the future. Originally, the demon world would only lose part of it in the second round of the meteor shower, but now it seems to be half destroyed. Everyone felt a chill in their hearts. This sentence could be called the voice of judgment. As the highest observer in the celestial realm, this sentence eliminated countless variables and pointed directly to the truth. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that it had already happened. Another change has occurred in the future, Hui Ming murmured before he furrowed his silvery white brows. But why? Yin Nuashing looked up at the sky and sighed. The struggle of the ants has displeased the tyrant. Game time is over. The tyrant is going to get serious and crush those who dare to resist him. Our enemy is going to get serious. Fortunately, time has not sped up. It seems that the tyrant still has some patience. As soon as he said that, a tired voice came from his side. But I don't feel lucky at all. Everyone turned around in a daze and saw an image appear in the air. Jean Cancan was lying on a golden ground and panting. His eyes were rolled back, and he looked completely ungentlemanly. Why didn't you tell me that these void mist creatures can evolve? They even went berserk. All of the void mist in the celestial realm were squeezed together and they actually created a giant that's almost at the level of a heavenly god. Are you kidding me? Yin Nuoxing calmly turned her head and glanced inside. She calmly spat out a few words. How the hell would I know? Don't talk like I know all the characteristics of the void mist. I only knew about it a few days before you guys. Jean Cancan's expression was full of disdain. All right. Reliable sovereign. Ahem. I've cleaned it up, but the next wave will come. Do I have to keep cleaning it up? Depends. Jean Cancan glared at him bitterly and stood up. I've been wandering the world for so many years. Now that you're back, I'm back to work. Capable people do more work. Do your best. Yin Nuoxing calmly said. He smiled and turned to Ming. I'll sleep for a while. You guys keep an eye on me. Wake me up if anything happens. An overwhelming energy burst out, as if it was wrapped in the power of wind and thunder, slapping the black fragments. Bang! A huge shockwave blasted out, blowing up the altar. Half of the black-robed people were blown away by the huge shockwave, and blood was spurting out of their mouths. When they were about to hit the ground, they were caught by a force and placed on the ground steadily. However, they had already fainted under the shockwave and were even seriously injured. A person walked out of the ancient palace. Before he could walk up the stairs to the open-air square, he was stopped by the 2 guards at the gate. Young master, it's dangerous in front. I know. I won't go over. I'll just stay here and watch. He nodded casually and waved his hand. Those black-robed people who had fainted were carried into the palace by his power. Send them for treatment. The ritual cannot be interrupted. Send people up quickly. Young master, this is all we have. The guard smiled bitterly. He frowned and sighed in his heart. It's already entered the cycle stage. Let's hope we can get through safely. We've been preparing for this for so many years. If we fail, it will be a heavy blow to us. It's still not enough. The preparation is still not enough. There's actually an accident. The black shadow who was wrapped in the transparent light retracted his trembling hand. He had used all his strength to hit that thing, but he could not even shake it a little. Just when he was about to make a new move, the 7 pieces of black charcoal suddenly trembled. The transparent airflow disintegrated and disappeared without a trace. The black shadow was stunned. He looked at the 7 pieces that were resonating with each other. Suddenly, his expression changed drastically, and he quickly retreated. A ring of resentment burst out from the 7 pieces and swept across the space in a ring shape. The dark sky and earth were already distorted. At this moment, the cold wind was howling as if thousands of ghosts were coming out. The monstrous resentment changed the shape of the sky and earth. Roar! The distorted face in the sky became more and more vivid. The resentment had almost condensed into a black aura, causing the space to be distorted horribly. A roar that resounded across the sky came out from the mouth of the face. A solid shock wave shattered the sky and rumbled out of the sealed space, causing the sky and earth to change color. Oh no! Quickly seal the space. Let's use both of those formations. It will be bad if the people outside find out. The young man's face was full of anxiety. Check the officiator's condition and the 7 pieces. He waved his hand and pointed at the 7 pieces of charcoal. However, he was stunned. The 7 pieces of the unknown object were still spinning, but at some point, they had condensed into an even larger piece of charcoal. The 7 pieces had merged into one. The sacred golden halo was so dim that it was almost invisible. Only endless darkness was left, as if it could devour everything. Oh, it actually worked? I thought it actually worked. The young man's eyes widened in disbelief. He revealed a somewhat twisted and sickly smile. He could not help but laugh out loud. This world really belongs to our race. The realm of the gods really should be controlled by our race. The remaining guard standing beside him made a strange hand gesture. The heavens have blessed our race. The countless years of preparation have finally succeeded. They had sacrificed so much. They had sacrificed almost an entire race in exchange for this. The price was too high, but it was worth it. It was worth it. The young man withdrew his sickly smile and coughed twice. He looked at the half-destroyed space and the altar. After pondering for a moment, he waved his hand and said, "Inform everyone that we are going to evacuate. Follow the original plan." "Yes. Young master, what about this space?" "There's no time to deal with it. The ripples have already spread. In 2 seconds, the powerful beings in the realm of the gods will know." "I'm just worried." "Hurry. We have to complete the evacuation in 1 minute. Formation master, take everyone with you. There's no time to destroy this space. Let's go." "Young master, do you want me to stay behind?" The person shrouded in darkness quietly came to the young man's side. The black fog around him had thinned a lot, and his figure was almost exposed. Even if he had dodged at the last moment, he had still almost been caught in the crossfire. The young man shook his head and waved his hand decisively. "Take the shard and leave first. Even if we are found, you must protect the shard well. Go to the final destination. Complete the last step. That is the last hope of our race. But it's not a big deal. It's just a young master. If I die, there will be many more. Young masters are the most worthless things in the world." The young man smiled bitterly and said calmly, "Go quickly. It's fine if all of us are caught, but you must take the shard and run away. Besides, we may not necessarily be caught." "I understand." The head shaman nodded and disappeared in a flash. Along with him, the large piece of charcoal that was hanging on top of the altar disappeared. As the charcoal disappeared, the dark sky gradually returned to normal. The howling of the wind and the appearance of thousands of ghosts seemed to be just an illusion. The young man took a deep breath and turned to leave with the guards. They needed to leave as soon as possible. In a nine-god shrine, Chu Fun, who had just left the top floor of the shrine, suddenly covered her left eye. Her face was full of pain. She leaned against the wall and squatted down. Her heart was restless. Thousands of images flashed through her mind. It was as if millions of demons were born. She was so scared that cold sweat broke out on her forehead. She looked away in horror. The golden light in her eyes was so dim that it was about to be extinguished. She did not dare to look at those images. It was just a glance, but it almost made her soul sink into it. After a short hesitation, she quickly stood up and ran to the top of the shrine. I have to tell him quickly." Yin Nuoxing laid down on the stone platform and peacefully closed his eyes. He was truly a bit tired and didn't even care about Chu Yingjian, who was blindly saying, "Go peacefully, I'll take care of them." If he wasn't so tired, he would definitely beat up this girl who didn't know how to control her mouth. Chu Yingjian glanced at the stone platform and whispered to everyone, "The coffin lid is pressed solid. He can't escape." Yin Nuoxing's veins were about to explode. He felt that it was time to teach this girl a lesson. Boom! The primal chaos element suddenly burst out of his body and reverberated in the sky. The dozens of suns in the realm of the gods released extremely dazzling light along with his state of mind. The light of destruction seemed to be on the verge of appearing. The two terrifying phenomena caused countless people's hearts to skip a beat. They hurriedly turned their terrified gazes away. Xian and the others were also frightened. They quickly looked away and saw that Yin Nuoxing, who had just laid down, had sat up again for some reason. He was looking at the sky with a serious expression. In reality, no one knew where he was looking. Maybe he was looking at the sky, or maybe he was looking at the void, or maybe he was looking at some other strange place. Who knew where his eyes were looking and what he was looking at? Wah, idiot, don't be so petty. I just said a few words to adjust. Oh, what's wrong with you? Chu Yingjian screamed and hid behind Little Qing. She thought that Yin Nuoxing had finally opened the coffin because of her anger, but when she saw that the idiot was looking at the void with a serious expression, she knew that things were not so simple. She carefully poked her head out from behind Little Qing. Yin Nuoxing's eyes flashed with an unsettling red and black light. His long hair danced in the wind. He pondered for a moment and was about to say something when the space around him wriggled and Halm Master Shui appeared. What's wrong? Why are you? The sea of laws is turbulent. Something is brewing in the depths. This fluctuation, this movement, what is it? It's so familiar, but I can't remember. I've seen it before, but I don't know. Yin Nuashing murmured softly and looked into the distance. A minute ago, a fluctuation came from the small divine land and disturbed the entire conceptual layer of laws. The law turbulence there hasn't calmed down yet, and now this is happening again. Are you tired of living or tired of living? Do you really want the God realm to collapse? Do you want the entire God realm to be buried with you? Do you want me to send you on your way? The barrier's consciousness opened its eyes faintly. The law turbulence is intensifying, and the law storm is getting stronger in the depths. I'm afraid it will affect the creation's barrier, and the interception efficiency of the stars will be greatly reduced. This is really bad. Yin Nuashing covered his face and sighed. The violent aura and the violent sun were slowly suppressed, and everyone in this space breathed a sigh of relief. They thought the sky had collapsed. Hall Master Shui's pretty face was full of worry. She looked in the direction of the small divine land and frowned. What a headache. I'll send someone to check it out. Do you have a specific location? I'm still tracking it. I'll find it in a minute, but don't get your hopes up. With such a huge law turbulence, I'm not worried about the law turbulence. I'm only worried that the law turbulence will shatter the barrier and leave the fragments behind. Then, I won't be able to follow the clues and find anything. Yin Nuashing shook his head. Just as he was speaking, he saw Chu Fan anxiously running to the top. He even covered his eyes with one hand. Yin Nuashing was stunned. What's wrong with you? I just saw something. Yin Nuashing frowned and stood up from the stone platform. His attention fell on her left hand that was covering her eyes. He said, Your eyes. I'm fine. Chu Fan shook his head hard. Compared to this, listen to me. Just now, a terrifying consciousness appeared in the realm of the gods. I don't know what it is. It's very ancient, primordial, or even older, a battle. Oh! Yin Nuashing waved his hand, and a tyrannical force landed on Chu Fan's body. It was as if he was ordering Chu Fan to remove his left hand. A trace of bright red blood also spilled out. Blood gushed out from the tightly closed eyes. The blood dyed with a dim golden light dripped down from the cheeks in an abnormal trajectory and dyed the delicate face red. Mysterious runes could be faintly seen flowing out of the blood. The runes collapsed and dissipated in the air. The collapsed energy kept bursting out of her eyes with distorted light. It seemed like the carrier would collapse at any time. Palace Mistress Shui's breathing stagnated. She hurriedly went up to treat her. Yin Nuashing walked up and waved her hand. It's a wound on the law. Don't touch it. The collapsed law will contaminate your body. Palace Mistress Shui frowned. A wound on the law? Why would it be injured by the law all of a sudden? As she spoke, she seemed to have understood something. Her eyes widened. It's just now? That fluctuation you mentioned just now? That fluctuation that disturbed the sea of laws? Yin Nuashing nodded. She walked up to Chu Fan. The chaotic elements swept out like a cloud and were dyed with a little bit of colorful energy. They went into Chu Fan's eyes little by little. Ugh! Chu Fan groaned in pain. She could feel the chaotic elements swimming in her eyes. That extremely destructive, chaotic energy had completely restrained its destructive power at this moment. Accompanied by the colorful starlight energy, it was very warm. The process of the chaotic elements healing made her feel very strange. Wherever the energy passed, the part that was originally damaged by the law would be covered by the chaotic elements. Then, the chaotic elements would distort and gradually return to normal. The whole process was as if the wound had disappeared. It was as if the injury had been removed. The final result was that she was never injured when the last strand of chaotic elements flowed out of her eyes. Chu Fan slowly moved her eyeballs. She looked up at Yin Nuashing and said softly, Thank you. All right, I just wanted to tell you. Chu Fan told Palace Mistress Shui everything she saw in one breath. She slowly took a breath. She felt that she had said all the words she needed to say in one breath. Moreover, she was stuttering and incoherent. She didn't even know what she was talking about in the end. After all, what she saw was chaotic and disorderly. Yun Nuoxing listened attentively, pondered for a moment, and looked at Home Master Shui. Take this girl to rest for a while. Let her spirit sleep for a while. She won't have a problem with the damage to the laws, but her spirit is damaged. It seems that something terrible has appeared. I don't know if it's a blessing or a curse. Palace Mistress Shui sighed. It was really an eventful season. Although it was not autumn now, there were really many things. Since a year ago, nothing had settled down. The impact seems to be great, but I don't know why. No matter from which angle, from which direction, I will end up looking at you. Chufan whispered, "Close your eyes." Yin Nuoxing frowned and said coldly. This scared the girl who had forgotten the pain after the scar healed. She shivered and shrunk her head, not daring to say a word. Palace Mistress Shui didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She pulled Chu Fun and said, "You're such a troublemaker. Why are you still using your eyes to look? Don't worry, Little Star will take care of things. You just go and rest." Chu Fun shrunk her head and muttered, nodding obediently. Yin Nuoxing looked at the two of them, stretched his back, and moved a little. I went out for a walk and just happened to find the place where the fluctuation came from. Palace Mistress Shui nodded. Then be careful. I have a bad feeling that something bad is going to happen in this world. What's going to happen in this world is already bad enough. At most, it will be a mess on top of a mess. What can be worse? Yin Nuoxing sneered and shook her head. She tilted her head and looked at Ming and Zian. She said, "I'll be back in a while. That place isn't a fun place. You don't have to come." After he finished speaking, he suddenly remembered that he had left them behind and ran away. Why did it feel so natural to come back? She didn't understand, but since she had already said it, she should leave as soon as possible. Seeing Yin Nuoxing run away in a hurry, Zian and the others were stunned. They blinked and looked at Little Purple Soul. The little girl was sitting on the edge of the platform. She felt their stares and jumped up with a smile. "See, I told you Big Brother is used to it. He even forgot that I sneaked out." Ming sighed and walked over to the little girl. She picked her up and ran her hand through her long hair. "It's good if that's the case. I'm just worried that Big Brother will forget about himself." "What do you mean?" Fonger frowned. "By the way, you and Xing Xing have a heart lock. Do you know anything about it?" "I don't know. I just have a feeling." Ming sighed. "I feel uneasy. He asked me to keep an eye on him, but I don't know how to do it." Sigh. Chapter 1167. In the dark and gloomy space, the storm of rules was turbulent. Abnormal energy phenomena were piled up in the air. Floating in the air was a collapsing palace. Strange vines dyed in red and black twisted around a mountain range. There were huge and nameless creatures. The cracked earth was twisted into strips in the shape of a vortex. The Whirlpool mountain range was like an inverted vortex that was gradually collapsing. The dim purple and black void flashed and changed, like a strange space reflected from a nightmare. The distortion in midair slowed down a little. White lines cracked like glass and finally shattered. Yin Nuoxing's figure walked out of the broken, distorted space. He looked at the space that was baptized by the storm of rules and sniffed. He couldn't help but frown. Who fished up the things from the depths of the sea of rules? Oh, it's disgusting. I haven't felt such an aura for many years. It's unpleasant. The light that spread out from his body twisted into a strange shape within 100 meters of space. In just 100 meters, the rules of the space changed countless times. He glanced at it and put away the light elements. The elements of chaos spread out and resisted the distorted space with an even more distorted force, forcibly pushing back the chaotic rules. The rules here are so chaotic that they don't recognize anyone. Yin Nuoxing felt a little itchy in his teeth. The rules here were like a huge whirlpool in the sea. The bottom of the whirlpool went straight to the bottom of the sea, but the whirlpool here was reversed. The bottom pointed to the sky, to the depths of the sea of rules. Things in the depths of the sea of rules were constantly falling into the space of the real world, and this hole was constantly expanding. If left alone, This space of rules would expand to the size of the space of the real world one day. Wow, the scenery here is so scary. The sound coming from behind made Yin Nuashing, who had just lifted his foot, stagger and almost sprain his waist. He turned around abruptly. Ziyin was constantly looking at the collapsed and distorted space here, and her small mouth kept making a tisk-tisk sound. She had seen many strange spaces, but she had never seen such a strange appearance, as if the things in the depths of a nightmare had manifested in reality. "Why are you here?" Yin Nuashing's eyes widened. "Little star, you didn't close the door, so I came over." Ziyin pointed behind her. It's gone. It was just a whirlpool. I walked in curiously and came here. I thought you were waiting for someone. When did I open the door?" Yin Nuashing blinked in a daze. In the blink of an eye, he saw this space and suddenly understood. It's because of this space. When I was teleporting, the rules of the destination were distorted, and I accidentally connected the two spaces temporarily. Then, he glared fiercely at the girl. "It's fine if I made a mistake, but you really dare to walk in. This is a spatial tunnel connected by shattered rules. If you're not careful, you'll fall into some weird place. Why are you looking at me like that?" He couldn't finish his sentence. Ziyin just stared at him and didn't say anything. She just listened until he stopped talking. Then, she smiled and brushed her long hair behind her ear. "No, it's just that I haven't sneaked out with Little Star for a long time. I miss it." Yin Nuashing was stunned. She opened her mouth, but didn't know what to say. She just sighed and turned around to look at the space. A strand of chaos element flowed out of her body and turned into a transparent barrier around Ziyin. Don't run around. The rules of this space are not calm." "I know." Ziyin put her hands behind her back and smiled. "I'll just follow behind you like before." Yin Nuashing suddenly felt that this girl actually knew what was going on with the spatial tunnel and deliberately followed him. Seeing that he was staring at her, Ziyin stuck her tongue out and quickly waved her hand. Well, I found it. Do you know what's going on in this space?" Yin Nuashing's cheeks twitched. He shook his head helplessly and looked down at the swirling mountains. "I'm not sure yet. The impact of the rules and the destruction of the rules have this effect when they hit the sea of rules. Maybe it has something to do with what Chufan said. Maybe something has been released. But the Torch Dragon clan's talent isn't very accurate. It's called an early warning, but they can't control what they see. As far as I know, that girl is in that clan. If she has the same kind of clan as her, she should be a special one." "Special?" "She can know everything in the world at a glance. Being forcibly instilled with information by the impact of the rules of this scale only hurts her eyes, but not her soul and spirit." Girl, do you know the scale of the impact of the rules?" Yin Nuashing laughed until his body trembled slightly. "The impact of the rules is almost as powerful as that of a heavenly god. It directly hit the depths of the sea of rules, and the aftershocks spread across the entire realm of the gods. No one can feel it except for the god-tier beings. But that girl felt it, and she clearly saw something. She was only slightly injured. That girl's flame of life has just recovered, and her body is very weak. How could she withstand the impact of the rules of this level? Don't you think she's special?" Ziyin listened carefully and shrugged. "I think there are not many people around Little Star who are not special." Yin Nuashing heard her and pondered for a while. Then he nodded and rolled his eyes. "I'm not talking about that. I know. But I can't tell what's so special about Chufan. I'm not like you, Little Star, who knows everything." Yin Nuashing glanced at her and waved his hand to bring her down to the swirling mountains. In a flash, they arrived at the center of the broken mountains. A broken building lay in front of him, floating alone in the mountains. It looked like a palace, but only the lower half and fragments were left. The upper half, was flying in the sky. The floating palace that fell down in the sky might have been standing on the ground. The remaining lower half was a building that was more than 1,000 feet high. The material was very ordinary, at least in his opinion. There was nothing special about it. The shape was similar to what he had seen before. Every palace looked the same. This was the disadvantage of knowing too much. If you knew too much, you would not be able to recall where you had seen these things before. There was an open square in the side of the palace. The ground was densely covered with talismans and rune fragments. It was hard to tell what they used to look like. They had been distorted by the power of the rules. In the center of the square, there was only half of a circular staircase. Perhaps it used to be good, but now only half of it was left. It was broken and scattered all over the ground. It could not be pieced back to its original state. The thing that was built in front of the palace. Little star, what do you think it is? Xian pointed at the half-circular staircase. An altar. Well, according to the engraved runes, it fits the look of an altar, but it doesn't look like a sacrifice. From what I know, an altar of this scale, if it was a sacrifice, there would be a few very special talismans left behind. The rules would not be so easily distorted, but we can't rule out the possibility that it was directly destroyed. Yun Nuoxing pointed at the destroyed ground. Hasty destruction, man-made. These have nothing to do with the impact of the rules. What is certain is that this is the center of the impact of the rules. It is the most distorted place in this space. Xian rolled his eyes. Something like a seal? Yun Nuoxing frowned and pondered for a moment. It seems like it. Didn't the girl say that she saw billions of demons and some strange things? However, the seal that involves the concept of rules is a little interesting. This wave, I really feel that it's very familiar, very familiar. When did I feel it? Where was it? Yun Nuoxing held his head and tried hard to recall. From 70 years ago, from that time, what was it? Xian looked at him and then at the broken altar. Is it something special from the ancient times? Like the world-class life forms? Those big guys are very similar to demons, aren't they? Yun Nuoxing thought for a moment and shook his head. Not those. Most of those guys don't have any spiritual intelligence. They only have the desire to destroy. I have encountered all of them in the past, and there is nothing related to this situation that would cause this phenomenon. No. Retrace it. It won't work. I was right. The destruction of the laws here is too severe. The laws here are shattered into millions of pieces. If you want to rewind, you'll have to put the laws here back together. It's so broken that it's impossible. Yun Nuoxing's expression changed slightly. But if you don't deal with it, the hole in the rules here will stabilize and become a hidden disease. If the sea of rules can't calm down, the rules of the realm of the gods will be finished sooner or later. I really don't want to deal with this. It will take a lot of energy. Yun Nuoxing rubbed his hair. The rules are leaking. I suggest you deal with the hole in the rules. The stability of the creation's barrier is almost affected by the hole. The voice of the barrier's consciousness rang in his mind. Yun Nuoxing's eyebrows twitched. He gritted his teeth and sighed as if he had accepted his fate. Then let's deal with it. Let's see if we can salvage one or two fragments. Xian teased. Didn't you give up? Since we were going to do it, we should at least get something substantial. TSK, if I find out which bastard is doing such a dangerous project here, I will crush him. Yun Nuoxing said through gritted teeth. But salvaging the fragments. The instability of the rules here is the biggest reason why I can't retrace it. Moreover, the rules here are broken. Why see when I retrace, it is just some meaningless fragments. Well, if I retrieve two fragments, I might be able to retrace it more fully, but it won't be more complete. He waved his hand and opened a portal. Then, he turned to Xian and said, Girl, you go back first. There will be a big commotion later. Xian looked at him, and then at the portal beside her. She nodded and walked into the portal. In the next second, she was back in the Nine Gods Temple. Hall Master Shui and the others were stunned when they saw her coming out. They quickly went up to her. You went with Little Star? Where is he? Little Xingxing is dealing with the rule scars over there. Xian shrugged and explained what had just happened. In the end, he added, if you don't see it with your own eyes, well, I can't describe it. Hearing this, Hall Master Shui nodded. She turned to look outside the temple and said, That explains what just happened. Just now? Chu Yingzhan raised her hand and said, Just now, when the two of you ran out, a very strange change appeared in the space outside the 9 divine halls. It was a bit like the distorted state you spoke of, but not exactly. It's probably an illusion caused by a mistake in the laws. Sigh, this phenomenon has never happened even when there were frequent battles in the past. Just how chaotic is the sea of laws in the God realm? Hall Master Shui sighed worriedly. It's not that chaotic. It was disturbed by the impact of several heavenly God-tier rules. It's just an earthquake or a tsunami. Yin Nuoxing's cold voice came from behind him as he emerged from the void and looked outside. 2 information torrents and multiple impacts from the void shroud. The latter is still manageable since the shock waves to the sea of precepts will be blocked by the surface layer, but the former is no fun. That is a massive information shock that directly bypasses the conceptual layer of the precepts, no less than the impact of a deep-sea earthquake. Now, there is another heavenly God-tier energy shock that directly hits the deeper layers of the sea of precepts. It is no different from a meteor crashing into the ocean. These few impacts could take away half of the precepts of the divine realm. Hall Master Shui looked at him. Are you done there? The hole has been patched up, and I've more or less patched it up. It shouldn't be a big problem. Yin Nuoxing sighed tiredly and continued. Originally, when heavenly gods fight, they would not send their energy into the sea of rules for no reason. It's no different from spitting at the sky. All the destruction of the rules would be blocked by the shallow parts of the sea of rules, and as long as it doesn't affect the deeper parts, it would be fine. He paused for a moment, and his face looked terrible. The hole just now has already connected to the deeper parts. The things in the deeper parts of the sea of rules are going to come out and wreak havoc in the divine realm. Anyway, this matter has come to an end for now. I really need to rest for a while. I can't hold on any longer. Yin Nuoxing yawned as he walked to the stone platform and laid down lazily. Wake me up if there's anything. Well, don't wake me up if you can't. I'll know if there's any danger. Hey, later, the meteor shower is going to... Ugh. Chu Yingzhan had just called out to him when she saw that he had already fallen asleep. She couldn't help but smile bitterly. This guy, they all say that if the burden on his body is too heavy, it will crush him to death. This time, he doesn't even need to carry the coffin lid anymore. Feng shook her head helplessly and pressed down on Shiyun, who was grimacing at her. You don't be so mean. Hee, I'm used to it. Hall Master Shui tilted his head and looked at Yin Nuoxing. After a while, he waved his hand. All right, little star has too many burdens. He also needs to rest for a while. Let's not disturb him here. Let's go to the hall below. There's still half an hour before the meteor shower comes again. We need to be prepared. She looked at Ming and Xian and thought for a moment. You don't want to hear anything else. I'll leave little star in your care. Ming smiled and nodded. Okay. Hall Master Shui turned around and looked at Yin Nuoxing again. She sighed in her heart. Little idiot, you've shown such a weak side. You don't have the dignity that you pretended to have before. He opened his eyes in a daze. The sky was blue. He was lying on a soft cloud. He moved his eyes and could see a city floating below him. The mortals lived a carefree life. The sun shone on them day by day, and then they bathed in the moonlight. The sun and the moon alternated. Life was progressing. There was an inexplicable atmosphere in the air. There was a scorching aura of the battlefield, a somewhat tense atmosphere, and a somewhat hurried atmosphere. But right now, there was only peace. Peace, true peace. There was not even a single brawl within a radius of thousands of light years. Looking at it made him feel lazy. Feng, you've been lying here all day. You're so lazy. I'm bored. There are a lot of things happening in the depths of the void. I don't want to join in the fun. Haha, it's none of your business. We're only in charge of this place. The world outside is dangerous. The underworld's actions this time are a little scary. I don't know what they're after. Yeah, who knows? He was stunned for a moment. Then he looked up blankly. Who are you? He turned around and saw a young man with black hair wearing a snow-white robe sitting half a meter away from him. The young man's knees were bent lazily, and his hands were on the cloud below him. His eyes were very strange. They were ordinary black, but there was a magical power in them. His handsome face was facing the sun. It was bright and bright, just like a big boy. Feng, you're sleepy again. He poked Feng Luo's head and grinned. What do you think the underworld is doing? They came from the depths of the void and swept through countless worlds. Although the two of us are only in charge of the God realm. How should I put it? I feel a little uneasy. He shook his head in a self-deprecating manner. That's a heavy burden. The divine realm is currently surrounded by the underworld. The ancient royal family has also sent word that they might be going to the depths of the void to fight. There are many wise people there who might have predicted this. I plan to send some people to assist them while they're gone. After all, our two realms have been friends for many years, Yin Washing opened her eyes in a daze. Her mind was a mess, but she still said, "It's been so many years. It's not good to be quiet for so many years. Why don't we go out and do something? Forget about it. You're just a short-lived hothead. You'll be clamoring to come back not long after you leave. You should just focus on being an observer. Dispatching troops to battle is my duty as a guardian. Why don't we just treat this as a precaution? Let's just say that the underworld might threaten the gods." "That's right, let's just say that." The sunny boy scratched his head and smiled brightly. "When the time comes, millions of people will answer the call. Do you think 20 Empyrean gods of origin will be enough? Who knows? That pitch-black mist in the underworld is a little strange. I advise you to be careful." I know. "You're not as good as me when it comes to this. Tisish, I can beat you with one hand." "Ha!" Chapter 1168. Just like in fairy tales, it was beautiful, peaceful, tranquil, blue skies, and carefree white clouds. Everywhere was filled with a serene aura. This was the most beautiful illusion that this world had bestowed upon the God realm. The underworld had appeared, and the encirclement was shrinking bit by bit. Worlds were being destroyed one after another. The people in the encirclement were watching and resisting, but most of them were just watching. The void was far away, and if it did not happen to them, they naturally did not have to do anything. They did not have to care about anything. They would wait until the underworld crushed the void one by one, and nothing would be left. This was what Yin Nuashing knew and guessed, but he did not know at this moment. He was still lying lazily on the cloud, chatting with his best friend and casually making a decision. Yes, very casually, he made the decision when he was dozing off. There was no fragment of this place in his memory, absolutely not. Throughout the 70 eras, although many of these memories were sealed, when the primal chaos deity was still alive, he had traced back to himself, wanted to find out who he was and why he had descended from the sky. He was not surprised at all. That search had led him to the underworld, and he knew that he was someone who had escaped from the path of reincarnation, but he could not find the source and did not know who he was. The past, yes, it was the past. The memories of that life had completely disappeared. He was not surprised that he was a person who had reincarnated, as if it had been decided by the rules. He also accepted it as a matter of course, and did not feel surprised at all. He did not look into it at all. He only thought his heart, yes, I jumped out of the carriage at the last part of the path of reincarnation, and then it was over until this moment. The eternal nightmare had passed, and it originated from 2 or 3 years ago, which was him. At the end of the path of nightmare, he saw those people from the underworld, saw the Lord of the underworld, saw the counterattack power that burned the entire void, saw the attack that pierced through the entire Yuan realm, and he was also destroyed by that attack. He thought that the nightmare had come to an end. Now, the dream brought him back to an even longer time, in the middle of the Dark Age. The underworld was still in the depths of the void, destroying all worlds, and the realm of the gods was still watching. Only a few elites went to the depths of the void to fight. He existed here, in the realm of the gods. He was an observer. The person beside him was the guardian of the realm of the gods. That day, what day would it be? He couldn't remember. It was a very, very distant memory, so distant that he couldn't recall it at all. But he knew everything. He was a very sunny young man. Although he was called a young man, he was actually a big boy. A boy with childlike innocence, bright and energetic. Every day, he would shout, and he liked to run around. He had never seen him sad, and he was very popular with girls. Compared to him, who was lazily lying in the clouds all day and didn't want to do anything or think about anything. They were two extremes. Even their duties were two extremes, just like how those who believe in the light could never tolerate the darkness. The Guardian was one of the two priesthoods in the realm of the gods. Everyone knew that Hui protected the realm of the gods. He had taken the lead in resisting many disasters from the outside world. His name was widely known and was widely sung in the human world. He was a hero, and it was because of him that the realm of the gods was able to maintain peace and blah, blah, blah. The other priesthood in the realm of the gods was the observer, Fengling. At first glance, he sounded like a girl, but when he looked at it again, he was actually a pure man. He was lazy to the extreme, lying on the clouds all day long and basking in the sun when he had nothing to do for 500 days a year. No matter how much he basked in the sun, he would always be white. 9 out of 10 times we went to find him, he would lie on the clouds and sleep. There was also one time when he stared blankly at the city below. No one paid attention to him, and he could sleep for an entire day, drifting to wherever the clouds went. Usually, when he woke up, he wouldn't know where he was, and it wouldn't be a problem even if he didn't say a word for a year. This nature directly led to the fact that no one knew the observer at all. The people were even discussing when the priesthood of the observer would descend. Half of this era had already passed, and no one knew that the observer of the realm of the gods was lying in the clouds all day long, sleeping soundly. Oh, maybe it was because he was always sleeping soundly that no one knew him. The world was chaotic, and this topic would never change. From the realm of the gods to the depths of the void, the latter was still fighting incessantly, and the realm of the gods was no exception. Peace out. That was just a joke. 80% of the realm of the gods were fighting every day, meaningless battles and worthless battles. In the eyes of the observer, their actions were laughable. The way they fought over trivial matters was quite comical, and that was how he lived his life. But in Huey's eyes, this world was very beautiful. The sun was shining brightly, and everyone was actively living a peaceful life. The practitioners were still fighting for something today, and the other world and the void were also working hard to live. No one wanted to be eliminated by this world, and no one wanted to be forgotten by the void. Just for this small reason, they were working hard to live, and it contributed to this sunny scene. Manager Hui said that Fengling saw the world as too dark and unbearable, but Fengling never refuted him. He just smiled and continued to lie down lazily. He liked this kind of world, and he liked the positive side of this world. He only let him know about this, and let him be sunny all the time. The real side was to tear open the scars and expose everything. But what was exposed was the laughable nature and the abhorrent evil thoughts. Fengling never told Hui about this, because he was lazy and felt that it was unnecessary. Light and darkness were companions. In light, there was darkness, and in darkness, there was light. This was an indisputable fact. The existence of two priesthoods was necessary. The guardian had the duty of a guardian, and the observer naturally had his own things to do. He guarded the world in the light, and he was the devil who wandered on the edge of the dark, destroying all the chaos that quietly grew in the dark. We didn't know, or maybe he knew, but he didn't mention it. In the world in the dark, there were many things, people, or other things that were harmful to the entire God's world in the void. They grew in the dark. The God's world was the largest world in the 8 elements realm, and the dangerous things that were born here could usually threaten the entire void. In the face of such a situation, someone had to deal with it. But Fengling was too lazy to analyze in detail. All the sins of darkness in front of him were 2 different matters, whether they should be killed or not. He was the warden who guarded the darkness of this world and the sins of this world. Well, perhaps it was more accurate to call him the executioner. There would never be a lack of darkness, just like how bad people would always be around good people. The two coexisted, and his duty was to deal with these things all day long. Those with twisted hearts, those who wanted to break the rules and go to heaven with countless people. He couldn't even count how many there were. No one in the God's world knew the observer, but there was always a nameless person in the dark that everyone paid attention to. When he took over this duty, he understood everything. It wasn't a fair duty, and it was all for one purpose. Everything was for the survival of the gods' world, and that was that. Even if it was dirty work, even if it was to deal with something that couldn't see the light of day, as long as it was necessary, he would take care of it. Fortunately, the people in the gods' world weren't all idiots, and there weren't many people who didn't have the brains to think about the destruction of the world. He had been the observer for so many years, writing down the names of all the people who had been executed in a book, and enlarging it by 2 or 3 times was not enough. Most of the time, he had nothing to do. Right. The reason why he said that he was doing dirty work was because his execution list didn't only have the so-called dark side existences. For example, there were some people who accidentally touched on the domain of ascension. Those people would also accidentally bump into his line of sight and become part of the execution list. Phone, you're spacing out again. Hui said in annoyance. You should at least change a little. It's not good to sleeping all day. He smiled faintly and stood up. Why don't you come with me for a walk? Yinhuasheng replied in a lazy tone, not even wanting to open his eyes. Where are we going now? To the depths of the void, to see those fellows in the underworld, to see those... Huey's expression changed slightly. Those destroyed worlds, and those worlds that are in deep trouble. Yinhuasheng opened his eyes slightly. He didn't know why he was acting so lazy, and the fatigue that came from his soul made him not want to move. He just wanted to sleep like a dead man today, right here, right now. This was Feng Ling's memory, or perhaps it was also his memory from the Dark Age. He felt that it was very interesting, but now wasn't the time to look at his memories before and after. He didn't know how many lifetimes of memories he had, but he felt that he couldn't wake up, and his soul couldn't wake up. It was as if he was dreaming back to the Dark Age, and as if those memories of Quarter Moon and Yinhuasheng were fake. In fact, he was Feng Ling, and those memories of countless lifetimes of reincarnation were forged by his brain. For a moment, he really had such a feeling, and he almost couldn't differentiate between reality and illusion. Hey, Feng, are you listening? We couldn't help but sigh. Are you really sleepy? I see that you're listless these days. Why don't you move a little? I'm thinking about some things. Don't talk first. Yinhuasheng answered vaguely. He was thinking about the problem he had just been thinking about. It wasn't about Feng Ling, nor was it about the observer and protector, but something deeper. Yes, it was that matter. In the ancient age, Quarter Moon. At that time, he didn't have any memories of the Dark Age. But in this life, yes, it was this life. It started from Feng Yueying and then Yinhuasheng. The eternal nightmare started from this moment. The memories of the Dark Age and the faint fragments of the Dark Age came together with the nightmare. In Quarter Moon's life, there were no signs of it. He had actually thought about this question more than once or twice, but he didn't tell anyone about it. This kind of I'm not me, I'm not the pure me. Saying it out loud gave him goosebumps. Well, actually he didn't. He still accepted this kind of thing with a clear conscience and didn't pursue it. Now, he had no choice but to pursue it. This memory that suddenly appeared made him faintly feel that something was wrong. Just like the most ordinary thing, he knew what kind of person Feng Ling was, just like he knew what kind of person he was. He knew it without any reason. This time, it really made his back feel a little. Well, there was still no reaction. Feng. We looked at him seriously. I think you're still muddle-headed from sleeping. It's been an hour, but you haven't said anything. Don't be in a daze. Hurry up and move a little. Yinhuasheng. He felt that there was nothing to refute because Feng Ling was sleepy every day. The only time his mind was awake was probably when he was carrying out an execution. Yes, that's right. Why don't we go and pick up girls? Hui said with a grin. Yinhuasheng lowered his head and glanced at him gloomily. Forget about that. Sai, ever since I went out to meet those girls with you last time, that girl said that she liked more masculine men, he sighed. I haven't recovered from it for half a year. Then let's go there and take a look. Yinhuasheng subconsciously stretched and then lazily got up from the cloud. He yawned and said, What's so fun about it? Well, it's just watching a group of people. Yawn. Fighting here and there. It's so boring. Huh? Isn't the world like this? You fight and you fight for progress. As long as you have this kind of heart, fighting is inevitable. Yin Washing rolled his eyes and muttered, I wonder what's going on over there. He was talking about the 139th era. He didn't know how the time between the two sides was calculated, but he seemed to be trapped in this time and space. For the time being, he couldn't break free. Last time, it ended with destruction. What would happen this time to be considered the end? We heard him and grinned. Don't worry, it's fine. Yin Nuashing was stunned. You know what I'm talking about? Isn't it just the depths of a void? Don't worry, although the people from the underworld are aggressive. Well, they have destroyed countless worlds, but it's actually not. We won't die there. We're just taking some people with us to take a look just in case. It seems like the observer is still the observer. Even though he's usually lazy, he's still doing serious business. Yin Nuashing rolled his eyes. He really thought that he knew what he was talking about. For this world, no, to be precise, for this era, he knew the ending of the Dark Age. He knew what happened during the Dark Age. At least, he knew that it was an earth-shattering event. How should he put it? He felt a little strange. Knowing the result, and then looking at what was going to happen, he always felt a little strange. He felt that no matter what he did, he would have to return empty-handed. But for those who lived in this era, it was something that really happened to them. On the other side, in the 139th era, at the top of the water god temple, Home Master Shay, Xian, and the others came to the top of the temple. The sky outside was bright and eternal, like the light of the stars that never set. It illuminated the entire god realm. The sky was burning, dyed with the strange colors of the sun, burning the entire god realm. 3 loopholes have appeared in the Sourcepeak region. Faraway Lu City has been destroyed. The 5th to 12th teams have barely retreated. Let's hope that our comrades have been reborn in the spiritual temple. We are rebuilding the joint barrier. The ultimate plane region. This is the ultimate plane region. F***CK. These suns can turn. They are bombarding the joint barrier of the Sourcepeak region from the side. The void fog has infiltrated. A large amount of void fog has gathered at the border of the Divine Land. Secondary derivatives have appeared, requesting backup. 2 energy nodes of the joint barrier have been destroyed. All retreat. Retreat. A big guy is coming. The area within 100 million miles has been cleared. Retreat. The great city protecting formation of Xingming City can't hold on any longer. We don't need their teleportation gate anymore. With Tai City as the center, the 33 cities here have all evacuated. The barrier can be pushed back a little. F***CK. We can't retreat here. Once the nodes explode, the barrier will be finished. The ultimate plane region has completely fallen. A large amount of void fog. In any case, all that entered her ears was bad news. Hall Master Shui only felt a slight pain in her ears. The shower of stars had come even more punctually than they had imagined. It was so punctual that it made them grit their teeth in anger. The bombardment was 12 times more powerful than the first wave, and it was as if they were about to slap the joint barrier in the face. Everyone was caught off guard. The creation's barrier had held on for half an hour, and after that, the suns were directly pressed against their faces. A full-power attack, comparable to a divine-ranked deity, smashed into their faces at an unknown speed. That feeling. Reporting, the demon world has been hit. The timing is exactly the same as what Lord Barrier predicted. The demon world was hit by the first sun 3 minutes ago. The troops that appeared now are already in chaos. We are still observing that heavenly demon god. Oh, there's no need to observe anymore. He has already retreated. I think there's chaos in the demon world as well. Report from the 4th observation point of the Royal Ridge clan. We have observed unusual fluctuations in the laws. It might be the cause of those stars crashing into the demon world and the demon world. Next to home Master Shui, a young man with long white hair heaved a sigh of relief. The 2 forked antlers on his head revealed his identity. Looking closely at his face, it was the candle dragon that Yin Nuashing had seen the other day. Fortunately, we moved our people here. If we didn't listen to you, I'm afraid there wouldn't even be ashes left of them. Home Master Shui sighed. If we can save some, then so be it. We warn them. Whether they listen or run away is their problem. We save some, more or less. The Candle Dragon wiped his sweat and smiled. The Dark Immortal Clan, the Qinglin Clan, and many others have listened to our advice and retreated from the demon world. That's because of your persuasion. Hall Master Shui shook her head. She looked at the barrier's consciousness and said, "Can't you wake Little Star up? The situation is very bad now. There are already loopholes in the joint barrier. The defense line is retreating again and again. I'm afraid that China will be affected before this round is over." The barrier's consciousness was glowing with energy. He slowly raised his head. "I can't contact the original body. How can this be?" Xian frowned. He walked to the stone platform and looked at the sleeping Yun Nuoxing. "But he's right here. Why?" "There's a time and space crossing that exceeds the detection limit. Location unknown. Time unknown. The original body's consciousness is immersed in an undetectable place that transcends time and space." The barrier's consciousness said in a hollow voice. "Possibility of forcibly waking him up. 0. Little Star can't wake up?" Fulmer asked anxiously. "My guess is that the original body's consciousness is locked by some undetectable powerful force and can't be awakened for the time being." The destructive explosions outside sent chills down everyone's spines. Xian was a little nervous and helpless. In just a short while, he disappeared from her side. She didn't know where he went. Hall Master Shui listened calmly. She took a deep breath and waved her hand. "Use the resources of the 9 divine temples. It can hold on for a while. Move these dozens of suns out." All of them?" Nightmare shivered. He looked up at the 40 dim suns. "Won't they be accidentally injured? They're running away now. How can they be accidentally injured?" Hall Master Shui shook her head. "We can't hesitate anymore. If we delay any longer, there'll be nothing left. Hurry up." Before she walked out of the temple, she looked back at Xian and the others. She hesitated for a moment. "If Little Star wakes up, well, I'm hungry. It's okay. We'll solve it. We can't rely on him for everything." Everyone was confused. She disappeared from the top floor of the temple. Xian and the others gathered around the stone platform. They looked at Yun Nuoxing, who was sleeping peacefully with his hands folded on his abdomen. His chest was still moving up and down. His spirit and soul were normal. He was lying there like normal, but they couldn't feel his breath. Little purple soul patted Xian's arm. He looked up and grinned. "Don't worry, Sister Xian. Big Brother is fine. Big Brother is looking for something very important. No one can disturb him now. We just need to wait here, quietly." Xian and Mei Mao looked at Little Purple Soul seriously. "Did Little Star say anything to you?" "No." Little Purple Soul shook his head and smiled. "I just saw Big Brother go out." "That's right. He went out." As if his soul had left his body, his consciousness quietly drifted away. Everyone was terrified. Chapter 1169. The violent bombardment that had engulfed half of the celestial realm had been going on for 2 whole hours. In the second round of bombardment, 1/5 of the time had passed. The long night had long passed, but no one could find the sons of the celestial realm. They did not know if they had been shredded into pieces by the explosions, or if they had simply fallen head first into the barrier. The combined barrier retreated from the west of Source Peak territory to Underworld Star City. The experts in the holy city of Source Peak territory had finally succumbed after being hit multiple times by the stars, destroying half of the city and sacrificing half of the city's lives. They had succumbed in the face of an extraordinary disaster. However, the space had been torn apart, and there were no rules at all. The teleportation gates that led to various places in Source Peak territory and even Pantheon World had been declared invalid. Hundreds of millions of lives were still trapped in Underworld Star City. Only a small portion of them could escape quickly. As for the rest, even the Guardian forces didn't have the time to help them. There were many holes and cracks in the combined barrier, and it was still rapidly retreating while constantly gathering power. The rear had also been hit by more or less stars, so there wasn't much power left to take care of that. In short, the situation was terrible. Continue retreating. While maintaining the old combined barrier, prepare a new one before the old one collapses. Don't worry about the ones that have already been broken. Go gather people and throw those who still want to live back here. Use all the formation diagrams and whatnot. 30% of the soul tablets in the spiritual temple have lit up. Everyone's soul and body are being reconstructed. They won't be able to help in a short period of time. The temple master has already ordered the stars to be in place. The new barrier is on the way. Hurry up and make space for everyone. This astral sea barrier will cover half of Pantheon world. Those who are burned to death by their own sons will be used to fill the void. Hurry up and provide a few coordinates. The star's energy is recovering. They need to be transferred to the destination in one go. What? You're asking me about the consequences? The marked location will be blown to smithereens within a radius of 100 million miles. Is that considered a consequence? Damn it, these are 40 stars with the power of peak heavenly gods. Even Pantheon world will tremble when these things are moved. What kind of consequences do you think there will be? Nonsense. Who would use this kind of thing if they weren't forced to? That's the powerful force left by the first palace master. Now the creation's barrier is all ready. Damn it. If you keep talking nonsense, I'll throw it at your head. The Nine God Temple was probably the fastest place to exchange information in the entire God realm, or at least it was the fastest place to exchange information right now. No matter what news they received, it would only get worse and worse. It was a despairing situation, but the atmosphere at the top of the Water God Temple was unusually lively. There was none of the nervousness of the apocalypse outside. The girls were shocked when they saw the exploding stars outside. Shi Jiao and Shi Yi were even talking about the exploding stars with great interest. Little Purple Soul was giggling there, as expected of a child who doesn't know anything. No, she doesn't feel nervous at all. When Yuan Shi, who had just returned from the Yuan family, saw the three little girls, his nervousness and urgency completely disappeared. For some reason, he even felt a little relaxed. He felt as if there were festive fireworks going off outside, instead of the flames of the stars descending like a catastrophe. Yaya, look over there. Look over there. Little Purple Soul stood at the edge of the platform, gesticulating and pointing at the bright stars outside. However, everyone smiled bitterly when they saw the bright stars outside. Who could see what was going on outside? The distorted stars had destroyed everything. The problem was that the little girl was not affected at all. Xian and the others were very surprised, but not too surprised. After all, the little girl was even more mysterious than Yinuashing. Anything that happened to her was like a fairy tale to them. It was impossible for them to be surprised all the time, so they were already numb to it. Zi glanced over there and said, "It's a dark star, tainted with the energy of the void mist. TSK, TSK. Even I can't see that place. How amazing is this little girl? Even Brother Nua doesn't know. Who knows? We don't know anything except that the little girl has that strange energy immunity." Yishi waved her wide sleeves and shook her head helplessly. "Yaya, there's a continent flying over." Little Purple Soul waved at everyone excitedly. Xian and the others nodded casually. Then, they felt that something was wrong. What did a continent mean? Did they hear it wrong? It was slowed down by that thin layer. Yaya, it missed the realm of the gods. It was captured. This time, everyone heard it clearly. They felt a chill run down their spines. A continent that had been hit by a fragment of the realm of the gods. A continent that had been hit by a fragment of the realm of the gods. The primordial life forms in the realm of the gods. Well, probably. They did not know if there were any survivors on the continent at that speed. There are people on it. There are eggshells. I see them. Little Purple Fox jumped into Xian's arms with a smile and said, "Sister Xian, let's go and have a look. Let's go and have a look." Xian smiled bitterly and held the little girl down. She shook her head and said, "Not now. It's too chaotic out there. Should we go after the meteor shower is over?" Little Purple Soul turned her head to look at the meteor shower. Then, She turned her head to look at where the continent was. She lowered her head and thought for a while. Yes, he thought that the little girl would be depressed for a while after he rejected her. He did not expect her to pull Shi Hao, and Shi Yun to watch the meteor shower fall on the realm of the gods. The meteor shower. It's a real meteor shower. It's completely different from those stupid rocks. It's a real meteor shower. This feast really fits the name of the first realm of the gods, doesn't it? Everyone turned their heads when they heard the voice. Then they saw a girl in a snow-white short skirt striding up to the top of the temple. Her bright black eyes flashed as she scanned the platform. Finally, her gaze landed on little purple soul. She grinned and said in a loud voice, "Little girl, where's your stupid brother? I heard from Home Master Shui that he's here." Everyone was stunned and looked at each other. This sentence made them realize that this beautiful girl knew little purple soul. She also knew Yin Nuoxing, but they had never seen this girl before. Wait a moment. They thought of someone who seemed to fit the description. Someone who lived in Yin Nuoxing's memories. Aaron was still alive. However, they had not seen each other for more than 10 years. Her name was Little Purple Soul was also stunned. When she saw the girl in the white skirt, she suddenly jumped over and shouted, "Sister Yuin." "Hey, little girl, it's been more than 10 years, and you still remember me." Yuin smiled and caught the little girl. She reached out and pinched the little girl's cheeks. "Why haven't you grown in 10 years? Little Purple Soul smiled brightly and rubbed her head against Yu Yin's chest. After a while, she pointed at the stone platform and said, "Big Brother isn't here, but Big Brother's body is over there." Yuin was stunned for a moment. However, she did not doubt Yin Nuoxing's ability to get her lost, so she didn't say anything. She nodded and looked at the stunned people on the stone platform. She put Little Purple Soul down and smiled at them. "Hello." "Oh, hello." Yuanxi was stunned for a moment before she raised her hand to greet Yuin. She looked at Yuin from head to toe and suddenly said, "I heard from Xiao Xiao that the Yu family has a new goddess candidate. Is it you?" "Ah, Sister Xiao Xiao told you about that too? How did you recognize me?" Yuin asked in surprise. "You're wearing Xiao Xiao's clothes for special occasions." "That's right, it's the same style. Xiao Xiao is the only goddess in this generation of a Yu family. She doesn't even have a candidate. Ahaha, I just came out of the training ground. I forgot to change." Everyone was speechless. Yuin laughed and didn't take it to heart. She looked at Little Purple Soul and asked, "Little girl, where's Sister Ming?" Before Little Purple Soul could answer, a soft and sweet voice came from the side. "Sister Yuin, it's me." Yuin was stunned when she saw the beautiful girl with a pair of wings slowly walk up to her. She looked at the face. It was very small. She only looked a little like the little girl she carried in her arms. She didn't recognize her at all. "Ah, Ming, you're an angel?" Ming shook her head slightly. She wanted to tell Yuin a few times, but she didn't want to talk about what happened in the past. She just shook her head and looked at Yuin with her golden eyes. She wanted to say something, but she couldn't. Yuin waved her hand and said, "Looks like a lot has happened to you all these years. Haha, you're no longer the little girl from back then. Time flies. Sometimes I can still remember the past." "Ah, I'm just here to take a look." Sister Xiao Xiao just came back looking tired. She told me something. "I've been planning to come here for a long time, so I came. I haven't seen you two for a long time, and I miss you. Oh, and I also want to see that big idiot." Yuin was pulled to the front of the stone platform by Little Purple Soul. She looked at the guy who was as pretty as a girl lying on the stone platform. He was quiet, peaceful, and peaceful. He was completely different from what she had seen in the flood of information. His silver-black hair was indeed very strange, but it only added to his demonic aura. Yuin sighed and reached out her hand. "Look at you. You're always like this. There's no other way in the world, but you always choose the most extreme way. Idiot, you'll always be an idiot. Don't touch him. Little star is now." Zian screamed when he saw her reaching out her hand. Yuin stopped just in time. Her jade-like hand could almost touch the chaotic energy in the form of black clouds. She could feel the violent taste. She smiled at Zian and said, "I know. The little idiot is in danger now. I knew it when the flood of information passed by." Yuan turned to Xian and smiled. You must be Xian. Xian was stunned for a moment. He nodded. Yes. Hello. Little Star often talks about you. Ah, it's rare that this guy remembers me. But I'm sure he didn't say anything good. Yuan waved her hand. Not really. Xian shook his head. Little Star always said that you're very worrisome. Fisk. Yuan curled her lips and did not comment on this. She turned her head and made a face at Yin Nuo Xing's corpse, then smiled sweetly at everyone. How has this idiot been all these years? Back then, I didn't even have time to say anything before leaving in a hurry. This idiot doesn't even know how to take care of himself. Sigh. Even though she complained a lot, she could not hide her concern. Looking at the stars outside, Yuan, she, and the others felt that there was nothing they could do. They sat down casually and prepared to talk to Yuan about Yin Nuoxing's activities over the years. It was also good to hear what he was like in the past. Xian's beautiful eyes flickered slightly. She looked outside the divine hall and looked at the floating island that belonged to the Xian clan. Only then did she recall that little Xingxing had told her that the Xian clan of the 8 ancient clans had brought her family back. If there were no accidents, her father and the others should be there. After greeting Ming, Xian quietly left the temple and went to the Xian family's floating island. On the floating island where the Xian family was, there was a dense fog formed by condensed energy. There were mountains and rivers, but they didn't obstruct one's vision. One could see everything at a glance. This floating island was huge, much bigger than the floating island of a single temple. They were all small forces and ordinary families that lived in the Xian family's territory. They were considered the subordinate forces of the Xian family. There were cities everywhere, and now the city walls have been torn down. Colorful starlight shone on this floating island. At this moment, it was very busy. The rain of stars had taken away a lot of the strength of the guardian forces. It also took away some of the Xian families and Yu family's new guardian forces. There were also many who stayed behind to guard. They needed to calm the restless people and let them know that this thing wouldn't come crashing down for a while. Fortunately, there were 40 suns hanging in the space of the 9 divine temple. This exciting scene wasn't something that everyone could see. It also strengthened the mental fortitude of many people, and it wasn't that troublesome to calm them down. The city at the center of this territory had a majestic and intimidating aura. Even though it had been merged into the Guardian forces, this city was still the holy land of the Xian family. However, it wasn't as strict and guarded as before. There were some small checkpoints at the city gate to prevent too many people from rushing into the holy city at once. Even now, when things were chaotic and busy, one could see the disciples of the 9 divine temple, the Qin family, the Yu family, the Yuan family, and the other guardian forces moving around these places. On the other hand, there were other disciples moving around in other places as well. The 9 divine temple lifted its most mysterious veil for the first time. The holy city of the Xian family and the other great clans was also casually opened. As long as one wasn't stupid, no one would cause trouble in this space. Many people knew that there was a god protecting this space. Ziyin easily walked into the Xian clan's holy city with his identity as a member of the 9 shrine. As for his identity, he was holding little Xingxing's token. If it wasn't for the fact that the shrine masters were all very popular, the guards would have shouted their greetings to the shrine masters. Although it wasn't that exaggerated, there seemed to be a lot of people who recognized her, which made Ziyin feel a little strange. After asking around a little, he found out that it was because he often followed little Xingxing. Moreover, he was the protector of this space and the observer of the god's realm. These identities were public in this space. He was like a stabilizing force. It was also because of this that the people who often followed him were quite famous in this space, almost to the point where they were known by every household. Xian was stunned for a moment and couldn't help but laugh. She originally thought that there would be many people who hated Little Star due to the flood of information. Now, it seemed that this wasn't the case. She walked into the holy city and wanted to find the Xian realm. She casually stopped a passerby and asked about the situation in this city. She felt that it should be similar to the Yuan family. First, it was the holy city. Then, the teleportation gate to the Yuan realm was in the middle of the holy city. Xian realm. Oh, that place used to be called that. However, after the Xian family moved into the Great Guardian space, it was no longer there. That space was released. Look, it's that area. In the past, people were not allowed to enter and leave as they pleased. Now, there aren't many restrictions. The passerby recognized her and felt a little touched. He couldn't help but sigh, when will this disaster end? Although I know that there is an incredible person protecting this space, I feel uncomfortable all over if I can't see the sky and the sun for a day. Xian smiled slightly. It will pass. Little. We are all working hard for tomorrow. It won't last for too long. If that's the case, then that's good. After bidding farewell to the passerby, Xian walked all the way to the original center of the sacred city. According to the passerby, there was an extra piece of space here. The mountain range and the city descended from the sky, dividing the city into many regions. Many of the layouts had been rearranged. The city that descended from the sky was the original location of the Xian family in the Xian world. She found the city in a short while and casually walked around a few times. Just as she was about to find someone to find the small branch family, she suddenly felt a little absent-minded. The layout in front of her was so familiar. The blacksmith shop, the stall selling buns at the corner of the street, the bluish-white stone bricks, the layout of the street. Everything was so familiar. The people in front of her were no longer those people. The stall selling buns changed from an aunt to an uncle. There should have been a little old man sitting in front of the stall that was popular with children all year round. Instead, it was a young girl sitting there. She was holding a needle and thread in her scarred hand. There were some crooked little things on the ground, but everything was so familiar. At that moment, she even thought that she was back in Xingyu City. Even a little peach blossom forest was there. When she saw the peach blossom forest, her footsteps slowed down. Mei Mao was full of disbelief. Yenner, a deep voice sounded behind her. The vaguely familiar title made Xian tremble. The voice that she hadn't heard for more than 10 years had some doubts, some surprise, and some surprise. Xian quickly turned around. When she saw the familiar face, her eyes became hot. She only felt a thick liquid rolling over. Endless stars rolled over. In the dark void, every speck of light was a world of light. In this vast and endless void, there were as many as the stars. At first glance, they looked like sparks in the dark night. An ancient aura came from the endless void. Yin Nuoxing and Hui were rushing toward the depths of the void. Beside them were dozens of Empyrean gods of origin from the gods' world and the ancient imperial world. Yes, not the demon world, but the ancient imperial world. This was something that Yin Nuoxing just learned. At this time in the Dark Age, the ancient imperial world had not yet become the demon world. The people of the ancient imperial family were no different from the human race. They were like a branch of the human race. Perhaps they had more innate advantages. Other than the fact that the ancient imperial world was smaller than the gods' world, there was no difference. The rules were the same. One of the Empyrean gods of origin from the ancient imperial family came forward and looked curiously at Yin Nuoxing and Hui Dao. Lord Hui, may I ask who this friend is? Him? Ah, don't worry about him. He's a lazy bum. It took me a lot of effort to persuade him to come out of his nest. Hui grinned and looked at Yin Nuoxing, who was yawning in response to him, calling her a lazy bum. He said to the Empyrean god of origin, don't be fooled by him. Even if dozens of you ganged up on him, you still wouldn't be able to beat him. Well, even if you added me up, we still wouldn't be able to beat him. This guy is very strange. Yawn. Don't say that in front of others. Yawn. Strange, isn't it? Yin Nuoxing replied lazily. Looking at the endless darkness around them, she couldn't help but mumble, ah, so boring, so boring. I want to sleep so much. Let's go back to the gods' world. We've been out for so long. Everyone, we didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Phone, it hasn't even been an hour since we left the gods' world. We've already reached the place between the middle plains and the lower plains. We're almost there. Yin Nuoxing murmured lazily. She patted her black robe and said, I told you to use the astrolabe. We'll be there soon, but you just had to run here myself. It's very tiring. Yin Nuashing was stunned for a moment. So, he was the one who had the astrolabe? Everyone's expression became more and more strange. We didn't know whether to laugh or cry again. Phone, you said that if we were going to such a dangerous place, using the astrolabe would cause a huge fluctuation in the void. It would be easy for the people of the underworld to detect us. That's why I decided to run here myself. Ah, is that so? Yin Nuashing tilted her head and laughed foolishly. I think so. The Empyrean gods of origin from the gods' world and the ancient imperial realm had a mental breakdown. Was this guy really as strong as he looked? They were going to the most dangerous place in the entire void. Would they die if they ran there like this? All right. Bear with it for a while longer. We couldn't do anything about it. He reached out and patted Yin Nuashing's shoulder. We're almost there. This ancient void, I can already sense that unsettling aura. It's coming from very far away. There's also the aftermath of the destruction of the world light orbs nearby. We're very close to the battle point. Empyrean god of the ancient imperial family looked at the void calmly. We sent people to investigate this place a few days ago. If nothing unexpected happens, we can reach the place in 5 minutes if we maintain this speed. At that time, the furthest place we investigated was blocked by the Empyrean gods of billions of worlds. I'm sure the underworld won't be able to advance too quickly. Unfortunately, in another minute, we'll directly crash into the battle zone. There's a large-scale destructive power surging in the void. A cold and solemn voice rang out in everyone's mind. Everyone was stunned. When they turned around, they saw that the lazy guy had suddenly become serious. Although he still felt lazy, he now seemed to be in a fully armed state. Only then did the atmosphere become a little tense. Because of his lazy appearance, they couldn't feel nervous at all. We're very close. Hui also waved his hand. Be careful. Phone can't be wrong. Yin Nuashing raised her hand and stopped. Everyone hurriedly stopped as well. What's wrong? He sniffled and suddenly looked at the void beside him. He stretched out his hand and gently pulled it open. The void fell off with a wave of his hand. The scene that was revealed made everyone's faces turn pale. Huh, interesting. We sighed helplessly. We're still one step too late. Chapter 1170. It was as if a curtain had been gently lifted in the void. Bits and pieces of shattered starlight were squeezed out from within, illuminating the nearby void. The pure black was fading into a faint purple. Complex energy waves casually streaked across the void, causing weak ripples to appear. What appeared in the dark void was a dense cluster of light. Thousands and thousands of meters wide clusters of light were messily piled up here. The shattered fragments of light orbited around the main body like planets. A strange, gigantic body that was tens of thousands of meters tall was lying in the middle of the cluster of light. It was also surrounded by many other bodies that were overflowing with energy. There were tens of millions of them. Whether it was the lives that had died in battle or the shattered world clusters of light, all of them had been destroyed and covered by a layer of void. It was like a grave that stood tall in the void. No one would come to pay their respects to it. It would only gradually disappear and be destroyed under the merciless erosion of the void. That giant, I think he was... who was he? I can't remember. He came to the realm of the gods once, stayed for a month, and then left. Yin Nuashing softly said as she looked at the gigantic body that lay across the void. Then what realm was he at? Hui was a little surprised. However, he was not surprised that Yin Nuashing knew about the people who came to the realm of the gods. This guy liked to lie in the clouds and look down on the realm of the gods whenever he had nothing to do. It was not strange that he knew something like this. He was also Origin, but he was only at the early stage. Third stage. As for what revolution he was at, I'm not sure. Third stage of Origin. Even someone of that level died here. Hui frowned slightly. It seems that we have to re-evaluate the underworld's power. They have not shown any signs of exhaustion since the beginning of this era. They have destroyed countless worlds. We have all underestimated the underworld's power. Even the realm of the gods alone may not be able to deal with them. If necessary, perhaps joining forces with the Saint Spirit realm and the Longwall realm would be a good choice. Yin Nuashing glanced at him and said lazily, "There are heavenly gods of that level in the netherworld. If they join forces, I'm afraid, that level." Are you talking about the primeval god of origin? Huey's face darkened when he heard that. He did not ask Maple how he knew. Anyway, it was not strange for him to know anything. He just took what Maple said as the truth. This is troublesome. Since the last era, the realm of the gods. No, the three realms. No, the 8 elements realm. There are no more primeval gods of origin. The two of us have a chance to join the ranks of the primeval gods, but it will take an endless amount of time. Yin Nuashing was stunned for a moment. She carefully sensed her own condition, and only then did she realize, not knowing whether to laugh or cry, that she was an Empyrean god of origin back in the Age of Darkness. That made sense. She was the guardian of the entire god realm, and an observer of the same level. If she wasn't an Empyrean god of origin, how could she drag out a group of Empyrean gods? The Dark Age. Oh, what happened at the beginning of this era? I don't remember, Yin Nuashing said. As he spoke, he yawned, making him very sleepy. The Dark Age? That fits the current situation of this era. The underworld invaded from the depths of the void, intending to destroy the entire void. Millions of gods died, billions of worlds were destroyed, and there was no place in the void that was safe. Isn't that the Dark Age? An Empyrean god of origin of the ancient royal family sighed and shook his head. We don't know much about the beginning of this era, but if there's anything worth mentioning, there is one thing. He organized his words. The Empyrean god of origin of my clan once recorded that at the beginning of the 41st era, there was an explosion of extremely powerful energy in the depths of the void. The energy fluctuations were very similar to the energy fluctuations of the abyssal death mist. Yin Nuashing said that was probably the energy released by the primeval god of the underworld. It left a huge scar in the void. As far as I know, the abyssal death mist appeared in the void maze. Cough. The void also appeared in the 41st era. So, I think that the wound at that time was caused by the energy released by the primeval god of the underworld doing something. After that, because some purpose was achieved, the primeval god of the underworld released the abyssal death mist to begin the next phase of his plan, which is to destroy the 8 elements realm from the depths of the void. Is there a problem with this guess? He looked at everyone and asked. We listened for a moment. Aside from the fact that the timing is not completely certain, it is generally plausible. Phone, continue. That's it. There's nothing else. Yin Nuashing shook his head. I'm just saying whatever comes to mind. But to be honest, this information is not essential. We understood what he meant and nodded. Indeed, this information was of no help to the current situation. It did not matter if they knew the source or what the underworld was. At this moment, they probably needed to deal with that thing instead of studying it. This matter, although I want to say that we need to think about it in the long run, we may not have much time left. It's already the 51st era, and the underworld has been fighting for 10 years. They have almost wiped out the largest and most spacious lower planes. Some places in the middle planes have already suffered heavy damage. If we let it go, it will attack the god realm sooner or later. A heavenly god of the god realm said with a serious expression. We have to go to the Saint Spirit realm and the Changyuan realm. This is not a groundless fear. What do you all think? Agreed. Agreed. The sooner we do this, the better. It will be too late to react by the time they reach our doorstep. Hui nodded. Just as he was about to say something, a transparent black energy film covered the surrounding void. He was stunned for a moment and looked at Yin Nuashing. Phone? Chill. Something is coming. Yin Nuashing said softly and gently pointed at the burial ground of the world orbs in the distance. Everyone's expression turned serious. They hurriedly retracted their presence and lowered their life force to the lowest level. Don't be nervous. They can't see us through my barrier. Yin Nuashing sensed everyone's movements and waved his hand to signal them to relax. Dozens of pairs of eyes looked at the place where Yun Nuo planet was pointing at. The void trembled slightly as if a huge object was emerging. Not long after, a huge body appeared in the void. It was about 100,000 feet in size, and its entire body was flickering with flickering dark light. It looked very much like a human. The body of a human was similar to the head of a human and some kind of monster. However, its lower limbs were like some kind of strange beast. 8 strange limbs protruded from its back like spider legs. They swayed in the void, and the world light balls that were swept by it were all cut in half. The speed of disintegration in the void was much faster. Hiss! There is no such thing as sound in the void. However, its power should have reached a certain level. It could directly affect the void and transmit sound. Yin Nuashing and the others heard it, but it was just like a wild beast's roar. They couldn't hear any information at all. The huge creature stretched out its hands and made a hugging gesture. The void around it suddenly collapsed, covering the billions of world, orbs, and countless corpses in the void. After doing this, it suddenly turned its head and looked in all directions as if it was looking for something. However, it didn't find anything. It made a few strange sounds with unknown meanings. It wandered here for a while and looked at the empty void. After a while, it stepped into the depths of the void and disappeared. It was walking in the direction of the middle plane. After a few minutes, the void rippled slightly. Yin Nuashing, Hui, and the others appeared from the void. They looked in the direction where the huge monster disappeared and looked at each other. Lord Hui, aren't we going to stop it? We thought for a while and didn't say anything. Yin Nuashing shook her head and said, No, this is already on a place within the battle line. That big guy also has some energy reserves. If we want to kill it, we'll have to on a big commotion. Yes, I'm tired. If we act rashly, we'll attract the underworld army from other places. Everyone felt uncomfortable. Affected by his yawn, a few people couldn't help but yawn. Their jaws were almost dislocated. We nodded and said, This time, we're only here to investigate. We're not going to fight head-on. If a battle breaks out, it'll be very disadvantageous for us. Now, we have to find some world that we can fight head-on. We have to understand the current situation before we act. Foam? He looked at Yin Nuashing, who had been staring at the void thoughtfully, and said, What's wrong? Is there something that's worth worrying about? Yin Nuashing pointed at the void that had been covered again and said, Why do you think that big guy sealed this place again? That place. The eyes of the ancient royal family's god flashed. Is there something special about it? Or is there something that's worth it, the underworld's attention? I don't know. I'm just suggesting such a possibility. Yin Nuashing shrugged and yawned again before she spoke, making everyone feel uncomfortable. That big guy is just a void. Abyssal death, mist derivative. Maybe it's specially made. It's comparable to a peak heavenly god. This kind of creature would be considered a first-class combat force in the front lines, sending it out to guard this place unless they really have too many combat forces. Well, according to the characteristics of the Abyssal Death Mist, it's possible that they send out a peak heavenly god because they have too many combat forces. Characteristics? Everyone was stunned. You've touched on the characteristics of the Abyssal Death Mist? You don't know. This time, Yin Nuashing was also stunned. After all, the Dark Age was also the time when the Abyssal Death Mist erupted. They had been fighting for 10 eras. Oh, they had been destroyed for 10 eras. They should know something, right? Hui laughed bitterly. Foam, we've touched the Abyssal Death Mist before, but we have no way to understand it. Until now, we can't rule out the possibility that some of the infinite worlds have understood it, but he laughed self-deprecatingly. Why would we spend so much effort to understand it when we're in a high position without much sense of danger? But now we have no choice but to understand it. I think this Abyssal Death Mist is much more dangerous than we thought. If we don't deal with it, we can't deal with it. Yin Nuashing looked up at everyone and shook her head. There's no way to deal with it. This Abyssal Death Mist is so powerful that even the people of the underworld would be heavily injured if they touch it. Its power is very distorted and full of destructive power. It's a distorted power that could devour the light of an entire world. It's as if some kind of virus had invaded the hole that was exposed when the world was born. Speaking of which, we suddenly looked up at him. Feng, you shouldn't use that power of yours. Yin Nuoxing was stunned for a moment. It took him a while to react. He had subconsciously used the power of the element of chaos, and it turned out that he really did use it. And from the looks of it, we also knew that he had that power. The element of chaos had always been there. We could not help but shake his head when he saw Yun Nuoxing's stunned look. You've told me that this element of annihilation is very similar to the distorted power of the world's error. You can still suppress it now and not let it backfire on you, but it's hard to say if you use it for a long time. I saw that when you retracted your power, you retracted all the distorted things around you. The element of annihilation corrupted that part of the void. When you retracted it, you tore off a small part of the void and retracted it. Yin Nuoxing blinked blankly and sensed himself again. A long-lost feeling rose from his heart. It was the feeling of the human race, the taste of the human race. Even if the heavenly gods were no longer in the category of material life, at least they still had a human heart. The element of chaos would distort everything, but he did not feel the slightest trace of being distorted by the element of chaos. The same power, the same distorted energy. Although he called it the element of chaos in the ancient times and the element of annihilation in this world, the two were absolutely the same. This could be seen from the reaction of the element of chaos when he subconsciously used this power. In other words, as the Empyrean god of origin, Feng Ling also has this power, but he was not corrupted by this chaotic, destructive power. Yin Nuoxing muttered to himself in his heart and sighed. He looked up and saw Huey's worried gaze and replied lazily, "Don't worry, there's no problem." Compared to this, before he could pursue the matter, Yin Nuoxing quickly changed the topic. "Don't you think we should take a look inside? Let's see why they're covering up this void. Let's see if there's anything special in there that would make the people of the underworld send out some of their people to manage this place when they're engaged in an endless war." Yin Nuoxing grinned faintly. "Well, I know you want to know the characteristics of the abyssal death mist. Let's talk about it slowly." Everyone nodded and followed Yin Nuoxing and Hui as they flew into the void. The abyssal death mist is not energy, nor is it a phenomenon caused by anything. It's more like a defect in the process of the birth of a world, a strange phenomenon formed by gathering all the defects of the world in the entire void. It's a distorted body, a chaotic body, and has the power to distort everything, time, space, and the void. Well, that's what I think for now. As Yin Nuoxing spoke, he carefully drilled a small hole in the void curtain. He turned around and looked at the depths of the void in the distance. He waved his hand and gestured for everyone to hurry over. When everyone had entered, he turned around and drilled in. He closed the curtain and led the way forward. Born directly in the void, its position on the world's stairway is almost equal to the void and the primordial realm. It can directly threaten pinnacle heavenly gods, but I don't know how it will affect the Empyrean god of origin. It has the power of infection. Wherever it spreads, it can devour and infect all energy and all matter, converting them into a part of itself. Then, that part of energy will become itself, becoming the same part as it continues to expand and expand. According to the information I know, the abyssal death mist can hurt the people of the underworld themselves. But it seems that information is not complete. It won't cause any distortion or damage to the abyssal death mist spawns, the mutated and gigantified forms that are born from the death mist. When those spawns gather together, they would become a tide of darkness, and when they gather together, the power of the abyssal death mist would become stronger and more difficult to deal with. They would self-divide and multiply endlessly, and it would only be a matter of time before they split into an army of darkness that would fill an entire world. Everyone carefully circled around the shattered world of light. There were still living things inside, but they were all twisted living things. They were the tide of darkness. The tide of darkness that filled up the entire world of light was just like what he said. After some time, it would devour the energy here and continue to multiply. The abyssal death mist is more like a product of distortion, a product of the world's error. From the fact that it can harm the people of the underworld, the latter should also be a life form of order that was born in normal order, which is why they could not touch the abyssal death mist. There's also another point that the abyssal death mist could be a split body of some important person, with that powerful being acting as a spare part, borrowing the endless energy of the void and the power of that spare part to create an army of darkness without limit. A cheap trick. We frowned. Such a cheap trick could easily create an army that could sweep through an entire world without sacrificing a single soldier. But wouldn't that make them invincible? When the abyssal death mist and the army of darkness flattened half of the void, who would be a match for the underworld? And there are also powerful beings of that level. I don't know, my information can't be wrong. It should be. Even if there are some discrepancies, they are all misconceptions about the abyssal death mist. The underworld definitely has one primeval heavenly god, or even two or three. Yin Nuashing sighed and shook his head. Who in this world can match him? The ancient imperial family heavenly god sighed and shook their heads. The primeval heavenly god. Ha! That supreme realm, comparable to the realm of the great heavenly gods of origin. Who in this world can match him? Have the great heavenly gods all passed away forever? More than 10 eras have passed, but we still can't hear anything from that place. One of the heavenly gods of origin sighed with a gloomy expression. That place? Yin Nuashing narrowed his eyes slightly. Where was that place? He felt that there should be something in there, but he couldn't say it out loud. Seeing that they didn't want to say anything, he couldn't mention it even more. This should be a place that many people knew about. Where was that place? Yon, the great heavenly god of origin. I also want to go to that place to take a look. Yin Nuashing yawned and said in a daze. Phone, you're sleepy again. Don't think about these things. That place has already been buried in the endless void storm. The eternal void storm is still far, far, far away in the depths of the void. The indestructible God destruction storm can even kill the two of us. That's the indestructible trace left behind by that battle, and it's also the only evidence. Hui patted his shoulder and said. The corners of Yin Nuashing's eyes twitched. A place that could even kill the heavenly god of origin. He rubbed his eyes and grinned. I'm just yawning saying it. Let's go back to sleep. I'm so tired. Phone. You just brought us in here and said that there might be something here. Why do you want to leave now? Hui shook his head, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. Yin Nuashing shook her head in a daze and pointed forward. Go to that half-shattered world of light in the deepest part. There, Yun, the other places have already become the breeding grounds of the abyssal death mist manifestation. Only that place still has a little, Yun life force. Carry me there. I really don't want to move. Yin Nuashing stuck her head on his back and hung her hands around Huey's neck. We couldn't help but smile bitterly. This guy, doing this kind of action with a girl's face, is very easy to misunderstand. Hey, those people's gazes are already somewhat strange. Those red and green. What's the meaning of those purple and green gazes? We're really serious. Phone, come down. Gulp. Everyone, we understand. We all understand. We didn't see anything. Huey's face collapsed, and he almost burst into tears. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.